Hello, it's Andrew Eborn here with another episode of Lives on Lockdown, coming up after this break. Hi, it's Andrew Eborn here. Welcome to another edition of Lives on Lockdown. My special guest today is Andy Clockwise. How are you, Andy?
I'm very well, thank you, Andrew. How are you?
I am amazing. It's so good to see you. So tell me, how is life in lockdown treating you?
Well, let's start off with, where are you?
I am by Regent's Park, which is always glorious. So that's nice. You see, I've plucked something out of the garden. It's got to be good. Right by the zoo, where I do my morning walk, which is fantastic.
How are the animals? Are they social distancing?
I always social distance. I think most people social distance from me anyway if they're wise. So it's always good. What about you? Where are you?
Where am I?
Yeah.
I'm in Harlow in Essex.
Harlow, a great place. We love it.
We don't have a zoo near us. We've got a duck pond.
Oh, duck ponds are good. We have a few ducks, but we have a guy who we met as a family called Tony Duckett, whose job it is to trade ducks with all the other parks. So what I love about it, when I was growing up, I only ever saw two types of duck. You have those little things, they're the mallards, which are the colourful ones, and then you get the brown one. And that was basically it. I think we probably threw in a coot and a moorhen if you're lucky. Now in Regent's Park, they have every possible duck you can imagine, from the crested ones to the tiny ones to the crispy peking ones, every possible one you could imagine. It is superb. And this guy called Tony Duckett, great name, is the guy who trades these ducks and gets the eggs and everything else. So it is superb. So what sort of ducks do you have in Harlow?
It sounds very much like the ducks that you have, Andrew.
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Mallards, I think.
Mallards. We're a load of mallards.
Mallards and seagulls. I think that's.
I know. Now, listen, we've had a lot of performers on this show. Some of the rich and famous, some who jobbing musicians, some jobbing magicians, jobbing jugglers, dancers, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and now
this situation has been crazy for them. They're doing one of two things. They're either sitting at home, getting incredibly fat and doing nothing, or they're taking advantage of it and rearranging the way they do shows and so on and so forth. Which category do you fall in?
I don't think I've put on any weight, but I'm not sitting around watching TV all day. I'm not one for doing that. I have to be doing something. So I don't know if you can see the keyboard behind me.
I was just going to say, this looks very impressive. Are you learning how to play?
I am learning how to play. I bought it around July last year and gave it a go. And I thought, I'm never going to learn this. Right. I'm never going to learn it. I'm too old to learn this. So I tinkered around with it, but never really put in much time for it. But obviously, since the lockdown, I've had a bit more of a go, and I'm progressing, and I'm enjoying it. And so that's one of the things I've been doing. I've been recording videos. I've set up a new channel on Facebook. Can I mention that?
Of course you can.
So you know me as a kids entertainer, and you may know me for the close-up and the other bits and pieces that I do. But for more than 20 years, I've been doing children's entertaining, and I've had a Facebook page, a friends page, for years, but I never got round to having a business page. So during this lockdown period, I've set up a business page on Facebook, and I've been recording lots of video content. I've been uploading that every other day. So there's loads of stuff on there. So if anyone watching has got little kids, go and have a look for Andy Clockwise Children's Entertainer on Facebook.
I'll tell you what, for those who don't have kids, it's worth breeding for, because Andy is a superb. He's far too modest. You were in fact Children's Entertainer of the Year or something. Tell us about that.
I was in 2012. Yeah. It seems like a lifetime ago now, but yeah,
it is. That's the Olympics and everything, wasn't it?
That was an incredible year. I took part in the competition in 2008. It was a world championship in 2008, and then I went in for it again in 2012 as a UK championship. And I won it. I was very surprised to have won it. There was some great competition up against me. There's some great acts,
but they weren't as good as you. That's what.
Well, when I saw who I was up against, then I honestly worked myself out. I thought there's no way. So
who are you up against?
Oh, don't put me on the spot. I can't remember names. It was so long ago.
There was Paul Daniels, there was Chris Angel, I think Penn and Teller were in it.
I mean, a lot.
Fantastic.
That's right.
Everybody.
so basically what I did was I wrote myself off. I saw who I was up against. I saw some of the props that they had. I thought I've got no chance. So forget about the competition. Just go out there and enjoy myself. And that's what I did.
I love the fact that you judge an act by the props that they have on stage. Was that basically?
Well, it's not just that. It's you look at the prop and you think to yourself, what can I do with that? Oh, yeah, that's going to be good. And
doing it different. I mean, it's the same with musicians. If you have that sort of stuff, it's rather like judging a musician in a music contest and say, well, hang about, he's got an interesting microphone. I mean, until they get out there and perform it, that's what you're judging, isn't it?
I guess so. Well, the audience judged, and they judged me the winner, so I'm very happy about that. So yeah, so I love doing it, but my work is all I've never advertised massively. It's all been recommendation and word of mouth. So I've really never bothered with a Facebook page or anything like that for my business. So that's, had this lockdown, had this period.
But now you're there and they can do that. But you're also a wonderfully creative magician, and you produce glorious. And now you may not remember this, but years ago, and it's perfect, absolutely perfect, because I dug it out. But this time when the queues at the banks are crazy and you can't get anywhere near a teller, you gave me this. Do you remember?
Oh, that looks like one of the very first ones that I produced.
I know it was, but not only that, if you have a look, it's got my name on it. So look at that. You kindly did the Magic Bank. You got my name on it, which is superb. And the great thing is, when you're in a queue, even you're looking amazed, and you gave it to me. And when you're in a queue and you can't get there, you blow on it and it gets you all your money. Isn't that fantastic? And that's what you gave me for lockdown. Isn't that brilliant? Andy Clockwise Lockdown Magic. That's what you called it. And that was like 50 years ago, before anybody even thought about this stuff. How did you know?
I can't believe you got to personalise one of them.
Amazing. It's amazing.
There's not many of them about, I tell you.
No, very rare. Not many with Andrew Eborn on it anyway. No. Actually, probably thousands of the ones with Andrew Eborn on. That'll be the one you could sell.
No, there's thousands without Andrew Eborn on, trust me. But I genuinely, honestly, you're probably maybe one of 10. No,
don't make me feel special. Get rid of the other 9. I'm one of one. No,
they wouldn't have kept theirs, though, Andrew. Yours is the only one in existence. Let's go with that.
Thank you. Let's do that. It's the only one that you've seen. I love the look. What I loved about that moment as well, Andy, was the look of surprise when it worked. So look, I replaced the batteries and everything. It was brilliant.
I've got one here.
Oh, go on. Have you? Have you got one? I'll hold it up. Tell me, what name has it got on it?
Now, this is mine. And mine doesn't have my name on it.
Hey, that's what you want.
And that's mine.
No bank will accept that. it's got to look. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you about it. I'll cross out my name, but instead of Andy, it'd be we'll work on that sort of basis. Eborn to Clockwise. We're almost there, aren't we? Tell me a bit about the chef, because in this glorious journey that I've had talking to people around the world, the rich and the famous and the everyday heroes, and going into their living room, their backdrops, I have been so impressed with the bookcases, the fake bookcases, the awards that people never won. I love yours because it looks like a shelf from Comic-Con. I go down to Comic-Con and you've got everything. Talk me through your shelf.
Well, if you could see the room, it's, I don't know if you're familiar with Forbidden Planet.
Of course, I love Forbidden Planet.
So it's this, this is like, there's, I don't think there's any magic in here at all. I mean, considering magic is what I do for a living, there's a picture of me with David Copperfield. That and a signed picture of David Copperfield.
That's the year he entered the Children's Entertainer of the Year, and he lost to you, 2012. I remember.
I've got to tell you this very, very, very quickly. Can I show you this? How much time have you got? One of my lifetime memories. One thing that I'm never ever going to forget is 2 years ago when I was last in Vegas. I went to see David Copperfield.
So do that line again. Where were you?
Vegas.
Hey, I don't know.
I've been once or twice. So it's the last time we went. So went to see David Copperfield's show, as I do every single time I go over there. I do honestly think that he's the greatest magician ever. I do. I had this T-shirt design. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Jurassic Park logo.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I can show you the T-shirt. Here it is. Excuse me while I stand up. So this is the T-shirt.
Okay.
That I was wearing. I had this done, and I don't know if you've seen David's show recently, but this is a nod to his show.
Very good.
The skeleton dinosaur there is a nod to his show, and I wore that in his show, and I got to meet him afterwards. And there was a queue of people like you do. You queue up to meet him afterwards with the old meet and greet. And I was the last one. I always like being the last one to hopefully spend a little bit more time with them. And as I walked up to David, he took his phone out of his pocket. And I thought, that's a bit rude. It's a bit rude. I'm the last one, and he's checking Facebook. It's a bit rude. And no, he didn't. He took his phone out of his pocket and he put it on camera. And as I walked up to him, he put his arm around me and he took a selfie with me. And I shall never, ever forget that moment. But I'm going to show you the picture of me with David.
Yeah, let's have a look.
So this is not the selfie. That's not the selfie, but there's me wearing.
If it were the selfie, he'd have really long arms, wouldn't he? It'd be like,
and an extra arm as well.
That's very good.
So this is the only magic that I've got in this den. This is my den, and it's like a toy shop. It's I've got stuff everywhere. I've got a flux capacitor, a replica of the flux capacitor from Back to the Future up there, signed by 11 of the cast.
Who was missing?
Say again. Who's missing?
Who was missing on that 11? Who's the one you really wanted?
Michael J. Fox.
I was going to say, poor old Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael J. They wanted £425 for an autograph when he was at Comic-Con a couple of years ago. But in fairness, that £425 I think was a weekend pass and a diamond pass, and you could go to his talks and get an autograph and stuff like that. But I could only go for a small period of time. But they still.
Andy, you could have paid with one of these, you know.
Could have done. And so anyway, yeah, I didn't get to meet him, but I've got a lot of the other cast on there. I've got Doctor Who stuff.
So you've got a Dalek behind you. That's also
I've got
good.
The $6 Million Man up there, signed by Lee Majors.
I loved him, Steve. He was brilliant. We can rebuild you. I've
got stuff all over, Andrew. Over there, I've got Hellboy figures. I'm a big Hellboy fan. Got Captain America's shield up there. Signed. Yeah, there's Hellboy on the shelf. There's a Dalek. There's some.
People often say, Andy, you can be the judge of this. People often say to me that I look like Ron Perlman. They always say that. It's either that or Jeremy Clarkson or sometimes Elf.
You know what? I'd never seen Ron Perlman in you until you just said that.
So that's what they say.
Yes, and Jeremy Clarkson. You are a mash between the two.
Yeah.
And then I've got a sword over there signed by. It's a replica of the Sting sword. I think it was called in the Hobbit film, signed by Martin Freeman. And then I've got loads of action figures all signed up there and helmets and all sorts. This is just one room.
Oh no, but it's brilliant. And what I love about you is that you are the ultimate fan. You will camp out and go and meet these guys. I mean, I saw you fairly recently going to see Only Fools and Horses, and you met Del Boy, didn't you?
Oh, Dave, there he is.
There you go. Look at that. Was that a nice segue? It looked as though we almost rehearsed it. Fantastic.
There he is.
And that was the one.
And there's Boise and Marlene underneath.
Boise and Marlene.
Meeting David Jason, that was...
Oh, he's a legend, isn't he?
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, John Challis, as you know, John Challis is a real star. He's such a lovely guy. I did something for the Serbian royal family. I'm not Children's Entertainer of the Year, I'll have you know, but I did something with John Challis and Boyce, and he was such a lovely guy, really, really nice guy, very good of his time and everything. But he's like a god. When he walked around, they took him to Serbia, and he walked around. It was called Boyce's Belgrade. It's going to be a fantastic program. Boyce's Belgrade he basically does a tourist thing, and he gets mobbed in the streets, but they absolutely adore him. So it's really, really big there.
Isn't there a street painting of Boise over there?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure he probably did it. Painted on a wall of Boise over there. I may be wrong, but I'm sure there is.
No, it is the art. I'm always fascinated by this, about how celebrities are treated all over the place. And in some places, they are, like in Barbados. I was in Barbados in the beginning of the year, and they couldn't care less about celebrities. So lots of celebrities flock there, and they have their time off. That's the reason they go. Apart from Rihanna, who basically has been absolutely superb. There's a whole drive named after Rihanna. She grew up there, her parents are there, and so on and so forth. But she treats the place really, really well. But the obsession that some people have with celebrity, you have an enthusiasm.
I'm not obsessed. I'm not a stalker. You know, there was a time I'd always wanted to meet David Jason.
Yeah.
And there was a time. I do think there's a time and a place. If you see us, if I see a celeb out, I don't pester them. I don't pester as much as I want to try and get a selfie with them. I don't pester them unless they're there for some kind of event publicising whatever it is that they're doing, or they've just come out of a theatre performance and they're happy to be at the stage door. See them on the street, I don't pester them. And I'd wanted to meet David Jason for years. And I was walking along St Martin's Lane one evening with Shaz, the wife, and walking towards me was David Jason with his wife. And so as much as I wanted to get a photo with him, I just said, "Good evening, David." And he said good evening to me, and we passed. And Shaz said to me, "How old is David now?" I said, "I've got no idea." And I stood there and I Googled it. It was his birthday. It was his birthday. And I never wished David Jason a happy birthday. So when I met him on the 1st of March, I wished him a belated birthday for last year.
Brilliant. Well, he is a regular watcher of this show, so you can do it now. What message would you like to give to David?
Hello, David.
Hello,
everybody watches this show, don't they?
Oh, everybody, they ought to be on it.
I don't think you should single people out, Andrew. Everybody watches it.
I know, it's fantastic. Well, no, but you mentioned David, and it was a special moment. The other thing that people do when they meet celebrities is one of two things. They either lose about 20% of their IQ and sort of basically just burble, or they're caught in the moment and they start doing the catchphrases. Well,
that's not happened to me.
So poor old Del Boy and John Chalice. I mean, I had Mike Reed on the yesterday, and he was sort of they still shout out and sing the song, so like it's the first time you've heard it or whatever. It's Mike Reed.
I've not watched your interview with Mike Reed, but 3.5 hours.
Oh yeah, that was a short one.
3.5 hours.
That was a short one. No, we go back a long way, so we had loads of tales. It's like 3.5 hours, and that was just the introduction. That was before Radio 1.
That is some kind of commitment to sit down and commit yourself to 3.5 hours. That's got to be done in sessions. I will watch it, but not in one go.
It was longer than a Saturday Superstore session.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So yeah, Boise.
What's that?
Boise, wherever he goes, he must get Marlene all the time.
Oh, he does. He does. No, and that's the thing. They always do the catchphrase. So Michael Barron, all white, and I tell them they should stand there with a clicker, and rather because some of them get people are people. So celebrities all the time will have good days and bad days, and often people will say, "Oh, hang on, I met such and such. It was really miserable," and somebody else will say, "Oh, they were great." And the reality is, you and I. And everybody else will have good days and bad days and good moments and bad moments. And that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And you mentioned Michael Barrymore there. He was the very first celeb that I ever met. Very first autograph I ever got. Very first celebrity I ever met. And he was lovely. And it was a charity fundraising event. And they were charging 20p for his autograph.
20p? My goodness.
I know, right? So
he's great. I'll tell you what Michael's done in these times. I don't think you've done it, but Michael is playing the game that he does
on Instagram.
Online. Have you done it?
No, I've tried many times. I've put in my request. I've sat and watched many episodes, but I've not been successful yet. But I shall keep going. He's still doing it. He's been doing it for about 8 weeks, I think.
Is it 8 weeks? Good heavens!
I think so. Where are we? What day is it?
I don't know. People don't have calendars anymore, do they?
Somebody asked me yesterday what the time was. What is the time? I said I don't know what day it is, let alone the time.
No, but good old Mike, and to his credit, he's got this little plasticky thing, and people do their steps, and it's compulsive viewing. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a great guy. I love Michael.
Yeah. No, he's really, really good. And the other thing about lockdown is that it's normally lockdown and people are getting bushier. But has Shaz been cutting your hair?
Hey, Shaz is a hairdresser.
Well, she's done well, I like that.
So I had a haircut just for this.
Oh, did you? Oh, there you go.
I even had a shave.
You did. This is a lovely, touching moment. But I have to say, Andy, you are flourishing under lockdown. I think this is great. You've got a new website. You're learning how to play the piano. You're in amongst your collection of memorabilia. You're having shaves and everything. This is brilliant, isn't it?
I've done DIY. We've done
the
garden.
DIY? No. Yeah. What have you done? What's the DIY you've done?
Well, we had creaky floorboards across the landing here.
Okay.
So up come the carpet, up come the floorboards. Everything got relaid, re-screwed down, and it's like a new floor.
Brilliant.
Like a new floor. That was done. We painted the garden fence, painted the shed.
What colour?
Green.
Okay, so you can't see it now. It's hidden. It's a wonderful camouflage. You just have one long lawn forever.
That's right. It gives the illusion that our garden goes on forever.
I love it. I love it. So who's more domesticated? Who does the cooking at home, Shaz or you?
We both do.
Okay, what do you cook?
I love cooking. I'll cook anything, and I love spicy
Anything
food.
that moves. Okay.
I love spicy.
What's the last thing you cooked?
So, I tell you what, it's been amazing. Shaz and I eat out a lot. Well, we did, and but it's been amazing cooking for ourselves every day, and we've not got bored with it yet, and saving so much money, Andrew.
It is. It's incredible, isn't it?
It's so much cheaper to eat at home than it is going out. So no, we're loving it. I think the most popular meal that I do is jacket potato, cheese and beans.
Oh, you can't go wrong with that. And how do you do the jacket potato? Do you cheat and do it in the microwave, or do you bake it? We've got an oven. We've got an oven that has a special thing on it that makes it taste like a proper, though it's been baked for years. But it does it like half microwaves it and then half sort of crisps it on the outside, which is my favourite way of doing it.
It depends how much time we got, Andrew, to be honest with you. And
You've got loads, you're in lockdown.
And it depends when we decide what we're going to have for tea or lunch or dinner or whatever. So if we can put a jacket potato in an oven for an hour and a half, we'll do it. If not, it goes in the microwave for about 4 minutes and then we finish it off in the oven.
Very good.
Yeah, delicious. Delicious.
Because that's the other thing, because lots of these 5-star Michelin-starred chefs are on furlough at the moment. So they're all at home. So I've had a few of those on the show as well, giving us their little recipes. But we also had a fellow member of the Magic Circle, a guy called Chris Dodd. Do you know Chris?
I don't know Chris.
So Chris
got one of my checkbooks?
5-star hotel. He used to work for Rothschild doing the chocolate for him as a chocolatier. He's just come back from Peru. And he worked with all the great and the good. He worked at the Cafe Royale and so on and so forth. He's now a 5-star chef working at the Berkeley Hotel. Not the Berkeley's, the Bloomsbury Hotel. And what happened, he came on. What's that?
Beautiful hotel.
It is stunning, isn't it? Really nice. Have you ever had an afternoon tea there?
Not there, no.
Well, he's the guy who comes up with this glorious creation. I mean, Heston just thinks, who are you? But he does these glorious creations. So I got him on the show and we made a lemon drizzle cake.
Right. Well, I saw lemon drizzle underneath one of your videos, so I shall watch that one.
And I think it's dead easy. So
Shaz makes it delicious.
I've always wanted to make like bread. I don't know about you. Have you made bread at home?
No.
Okay. But that apparently.
Oh no! Hang on. No, I did. I have made bread. I did make bread.
How was it?
Once. It was all right.
Okay.
It was all right.
Good. Well, I want to try that because I think now's the time to experiment with things. And I before this lockdown, I used to eat out thousands of times each day. You know. So and what I've loved about this, and this is the real positive thing, it's actually been a real unifier. I think if anything unites people, it's a common enemy. And what this bizarre situation has been is a common enemy. Is that what you found?
I do, yeah. I mean, there's a great... I mean, we're talking to neighbours and getting on with neighbours that we've not spoken to for years. You know, especially coming out on a Thursday evening and clapping the NHS. It's such a wonderful atmosphere and there's such a wonderful community has come out of this. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and what I really hope is at the end of all this that we remember, because the other thing you forget the things that you really took for granted, like going to chat to people, going down the pub or having a drink or going to see some mates, having a hug with whoever you're having a hug with, and all of those things have gone. So what we now have to do when we go back to, and there will be a new norm. We can't go back to how we were. There will be a new norm, and what's going to happen is we should remember the things that we are now saying, oh, we really missed that. And then I think the world will be a better place, don't you?
I do. It would be lovely if we could carry on some of what we've learned from it. I mean, it's going to take a long time anyway, isn't it, to get back to normality? But by the time we get back to normality, will we remember that was normal?
No, I think you're right. And talking about a journey and learning. I mean, you were very good because you watched some of the earlier series and you watched I've had some extraordinary people on. Some of you haven't watched those, you can watch those later. But some extraordinary members people that we know, some mutual friends. And through the course of the interview, they sort of opened up. This is like a sort of platform for them to say, I want to talk about something. And for a number of them, it was the very first time ever that they had spoken about it. And it was an extraordinary journey. There were lots of tears, there was lots of laughter. It's a really, really emotional thing. And it's what I say about giving people permission to deal with issues such as mental health, to talk about things which have troubled them for years, and to try and get some unfinished business. And you said on social media that actually, as a result of a couple of those interviews, we talked to Paul Gordon, we talked to James Fortune, who touched on his early adoption, which we didn't know about. You had a tale to tell that you wanted to share.
Well, yeah, I mean, watching James's, it's interesting because it's not something that people shout about, adoption. We've got you've got the Long Lost Families series that comes and goes on ITV, which talk and deal with it. But it doesn't normally come up in everyday conversation, mid-conversation. Oh, by the way, did I tell you I'm adopted? So I was really surprised when watching James's, and interested as well to find out that he was adopted, and that he's now on this search that I found myself on some years ago, and I've used some of the time during this lockdown to sort out the office, sort out papers, get things in order, and I've been putting documents together, tracing my own story of adoption. Which I think, it's a great story. Not everybody, there's lots of different stories to tell. Some are happy, some are sad. Mine is very happy. Mine is a very, very positive story. And getting all of the stuff together, and doing a timeline of it, it's been great for me to go back over it again, because things have happened and I've forgotten about, and you rejogging memories, reading letters, and go, oh yeah, that happened. So I mentioned it to James that it was lovely to hear that he was now on this journey. It's obviously it's quite sad that he's left it so late, and unfortunately his mother has passed. But great that he has family in Ireland now, that once this lockdown is over, he can go. And just thinking about what he's about to go through just brings back so many emotions and memories for me. I'm quite happy to talk about my adoption and the process. If you want me to.
And I tell you what's really good and really empowering, Andy, is that you posted it today, just about an hour or so ago. And you said, look, you're going to be talking about this. And in the comments below, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but I looked before we came on air. And in some of the comments below said, I'm so pleased you're talking about it because I'm in the same position. And so many people are suddenly thinking, when they were alone and this is so difficult, and here are people with traditional families and other bits and pieces. By having people in the public eye, or people prepared to come out and talk about their own journey, it's been a real catalyst. And I've had lots of people writing in to say, we'd love to come and share our story. So what's really great about this is great for you. And it's really, you're holding yourself there. It's a roller coaster of emotion, and I get that. But what happens, it really, really, really is comforting for other people in the same position.
It really is. I mean, I found out, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into here, and how much time we've got.
Well, Mike Reed did 4 days and 27 minutes.
I guess anyone watching can always, fast forward to the end if they don't want to. But I'll tell you where it started for me. So it was around 1981, 1982 time. My adopted parents divorced, and they'd had lots of rows, lots of arguments had gone on for years before they finally split. And I used to go to bed at night, and we had one of these 3-story townhouses, and the kitchen was on the lower floor. Then you would go up to the living room, go up another floor, and it was my bedroom. Go up another floor, it was my parents' bedroom. Go up another floor, it was my brother's bedroom. So I was the nearest room to the kitchen, and we had the hot air ducts to heat the house. So no central heating. We had the hot air blowing around. And I remember going to bed many nights and then being woken up by my parents arguing downstairs. And I would get out of bed and I would curl up next to the hot air duct and I would listen to the conversation. I'd fall asleep there. And then the next thing I know, I'm being picked up by either my mum or my dad and put back into bed again.
And how old would you have been at that stage, Andy?
So this is probably from eight upwards when it all started kicking off.
Did you know at that stage that you'd been adopted?
No. So this is what I'm getting to. So that they're arguing. I mean, it turns out that my mum was having an affair, and my father had found out about it in the end, and that's why they divorced. But I remember the day that they split up. And my father moved out the house, and I was, sorry, Andrew.
Take your time.
God, I wasn't expecting that. So I remember standing at the living room window, and my dad was packing all his stuff in his car. And he came in and said goodbye, and off he went. And I went downstairs to the kitchen table, and I sat there, my head in my hands, sobbing. And my mum said to me, I wouldn't get too upset. He's not your real father. You're adopted. So that's when I found out that I was adopted. So as you can imagine, it came as a bit of a shock. But I had a good relationship with my dad. And he's passed now. He passed away in May 1996. But because I'd been told I was adopted, it just plants that seed that, your real parents are out there. And, you just start to wonder about where they are. Well, obviously, then I go through my school years and I do nothing about it. But when my father passed away in 96, this whole adoption thing comes up again. And you think to yourself, if my adoptive father's passed away, then there's every chance that my birth parents, my biological parents, have passed away. I knew nothing about them. I didn't know their ages. I didn't know the circumstances as to how I came about or why I was adopted. I wasn't getting on particularly well with my mother at the time. I mean, she had a bad time. When I was younger, we didn't have a very close relationship, me and my mother, and not because of what happened with her and my dad. She was an alcoholic. She tried to kill herself several times with overdoses. Tried to drown herself once. There was one occasion where we're in the kitchen and she was cooking dinner, and I picked up a chip and I took it into the garden with a bottle of vinegar, and I sprinkled some vinegar on my chip, and I dropped the bottle of vinegar and it smashed. She went mental, shouting and screaming, and she picked up a knife off the kitchen table and tried to stab herself with it. And I don't know. That was before the divorce. And I'm fighting with her.
How old were you when you saw that?
So I'd probably been around 10. So I'm fighting with her, trying to pull. Actually, no. This was after the divorce. Sorry, this was after the divorce because I was about 12. Because I remember the number of times that I got called out of school to go home, where my mum had called the school and said she'd taken an overdose. So, one of the teachers would come to class, collect me and take me home, and they would phone for an ambulance and she'd be taken in and stomach pumped. And so it was during that time. So, yeah, I would have been about 12, Andrew, sorry. when that happened.
But you
But
say
anyway,
that,
I've gone
sorry,
off on one.
just,
Sorry.
just to take you back, your mother told you when she had a row that he was not your father. Was she your mother, or were you completely adopted?
No, I was completely adopted.
But so it's interesting, the language that she's just trying to put the thing on him. But
Oh, yeah.
did she ever say to you? Did she ever say, "And I'm not your mother"?
Oh, yeah. But that's how it came about. It was I wouldn't get too upset. You're adopted. You know, I'm neither of theirs, basically. So when my father passed away, it was in '96. It brought to the surface again about adoption and should I try and trace my parents. Now I had to deal with my father's funeral and what is it? What is it when you deal with someone's death and you deal with the estate and a probate, probate and everything. So it took a while. So that was quite time consuming. So I did nothing then. But then in 1998, that was the year I was getting married. And at the beginning of 1998, I thought, I need to find my mum. I want my mum to come to my wedding. Not my adopted mum. There was no way she was coming to the wedding. She didn't want anything to do with me. She didn't want anything to do with Shaz. She was like that with all of my girlfriends. She'd be fine, at the beginning of a relationship, and then you start to get a little bit serious. And I don't know if the realization that she was going to lose me or what, I don't know. Became very
that often. I'm just to stay on that point. That often happens where if she's been betrayed by her partner or whatever, or I presume you didn't have any brothers or sisters.
I had an adopted brother, yeah. That's when I found out that he was adopted as well.
He was adopted as well. So
yeah,
the tensions there of a couple not able to have children. And was your brother, your adopted brother, half brother, or whatever, was he older or younger?
He's 3 years younger.
Right. So you were adopted first, because I think, to take you back, you were adopted quite young, weren't you?
I was adopted at 8 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, so 1969, 30th of September 1969, I was born. Bad Moon Rising was #1 in the charts in the UK by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Can you play it on the piano behind you?
Yeah, I can, Andrew.
Oh, you can. We might hear that later. Okay.
Well, I can play a bit of it. As Eric Morecambe would say, I played the right notes.
All in the wrong order, absolutely.
Not necessarily in the right order.
Absolutely. So your mother. So basically, I'm just trying to establish the relationship.
Yeah, I may jump about it. So if I miss out anything, call me back.
I can guide you a little bit, because as I say, and if you need to stop at any point, we can take a break or whatever. It's absolutely. And can I ask first before, because this is going to be a really emotional journey. Is Shaz with you at the moment?
Shaz, she's sunbathing.
Okay, but you're not alone in the house.
No, I'll be fine. I may shed another tear or so, but I'll be fine, Andrew. Thank you.
It's important, because sometimes people forget, and it's a session. It's like a cleansing, if you like, without being funny. But all of the emotions, and people get surprised because they've been bubbling up for years. It's what I call unfinished business.
Yeah,
because they're bubbling up for years. All of a sudden, it triggers things, and when things get triggered, it's so important that you have somebody there you can talk to, or get some professional help or whatever, because this will also have an effect on other people who are watching this and remind them of situations. But so often with relationships, there's all sorts of underlying things. It's not about affairs and other bits and pieces. If they've been trying to have children for a long time, that in and of itself is a big tension. And what happens is you say sometimes to the people you love the most, you say the things which are really very, very hurtful. So what happens, and you can see there's a pattern. You start to say it yourself. When you had a girlfriend, it was all right at the beginning, but when it started to get more serious, your mother would turn around and be a bit nasty to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so maybe what was happening is she wanted to push them away so she wouldn't lose you.
Yeah, and I think that is true, and I think that does happen whether you're adopted or not. I'm absolutely certain that goes on. But I was adamant that I wanted to try and find my birth mother and invite her to the wedding if I could do that. So we're in 1998, beginning of 1998. And it was March, early March time. I wrote a letter to. I didn't know how to go about it, because if you were adopted before 1970, I think it was, before 1970, 1971, if you was adopted before that age, before that year, there's no way a mother could trace their child. So the laws changed around 1970, 1971. So if a child was given up for adoption, the mother could trace through an adoption agency, could trace their child, not to have direct contact with them, but contact could be made. But my mother didn't have that, and I didn't know that until I started going down this road. That I was always the one that had to make the first move, and only found this out when we got together. So it's March, early March, 1998. I thought the best place to start was Somerset House, who at the time, they had the record of births, marriages and deaths for everybody in the UK. I thought I'll start there with a phone call. I phoned them. I explained the situation to them, that I'd been adopted, and wondered if it was possible to try and find out who my biological mother was. And they said, what I need to do is write them a letter, put as much information as I can in that letter. I didn't know anything about my biological parents, but what I did know was my birthday, and I knew the names of the parents that adopted me. And that's pretty much all of the information that I had. And they said, send us a cheque for £12 and a letter with as much information as you can. And if we've got anything, we'll send it back to you. So this was on the Monday. I wrote my letter on the Monday. I put my cheque in the post on the Monday. On the Wednesday, so they hadn't even cleared my cheque. On the Wednesday, I had a reply, and they sent me this.
Okay.
So they sent me my original birth certificate. So
brilliant. Can you read it to us?
Well, it's interesting because I mean, my name is Andrew David Martin. You know, everyone knows me as Andy Clockwise, but it's Andrew David Martin is my name. But it turns out that wasn't the name that I was given by my mother. She actually named me David John Summers. And so Summers was her surname. David was just a name that she liked and wanted to call me. And John came from her grandfather. So David John Summers. Now, it had no information there for the father, but it did have my mother's name. And it had the address that she was living at the time that she had me. And so that's pretty much all of the information that is on this.
But just going, I'm trying to picture this. You write to Somerset House,
yeah,
with a different name and saying, this is what I assume my name. How did they trace you to that? There's a step missing, isn't there? Because the birth certificate has a different name. You knew that your birthday, you were certain that was your birthday. Is that right?
Yeah.
And what is your birthday? What's the date?
30th of September.
So the 30th of September, you knew that's your birthday. You write to Somerset House saying, this is the information I have about me as far as I know it. And they come up with a completely different birth certificate. How does that happen?
Because this is the birth certificate associated with the child that was given up for adoption to my adopted parents. So there's a record there. So
they knew that on such and such a date, because at that stage you didn't even know it was at 8 weeks old because you had no idea, did you?
No.
All you knew is that you'd been told that 30th of September, and what was the year? What year you were born?
1969.
So 30th of September 1969 was the year you were born.
Yeah.
The name that you assumed that you had, you don't have. You weren't sure where you were born. You weren't sure where your parents, at that stage, the biological parents, where they lived. I'm trying to follow how Somerset House would have done it, other than to say, these were the boys who were set up for adoption around this sort of time, and here's one of them. Is that right?
I don't know how their system works. I hope their system worked. I hope that you're not leading me down the path of thinking that I've now been matched up with the wrong family.
Well, no, but I don't want to worry you. But do you see what I mean? There's a step missing, isn't there? Because all you know with certainty, you don't even know that with certainty. You don't know that that's your real birthday, do you?
Other than that's what, no, it may well not have been, but it was.
Do you have your other do you have another birth certificate which your adoptive parents gave you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And that has got my date of birth on it, and it's got my name. Obviously, and my name was changed through the courts, so there's a record there.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So anyway, so this came back. This came back. It was a bit of a surprise to find out that I had a different name. Let me tell you, Andy, I have no doubt that this is my mother.
No, that's it. But then the point you just mentioned, Andy, is that it was changed through the courts. So because it's changed through the courts, there's that extra document. That was the bit that I was missing in your story.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you go, I was going to say, because otherwise, here's a birth certificate, a completely different person. I've got no idea what it is. That'll keep them quiet. Thanks so much for the 12 quid.
Don't start worrying me.
No, it wasn't. You have an extra document, which is the bit. There
is. It's in my mother's. It would be in my mother's case there somewhere.
No, but that's useful to know. So when you're putting the piece in, here you are with your current name. You go to Somerset House. They say, oh yes, there was a name change on such and such a date, probably when you were first adopted, about 8 weeks after your 30th.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, okay, possibly. Yeah, I didn't have that information at the time I sent this letter, though.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So they're working backwards. They would have seen the name change, seen the other bits and pieces, and work backwards. So you can. I understand the picture now. You worried me for a moment, but I think you're okay.
Well, I think you worried me a bit. Shaz. So,
she's not going to come. She's sunbathing. She's enjoying the Pinot Grigio or whatever she enjoys in the garden.
Don't bother me. Don't bother me. So basically, my search started on the Monday. By the Wednesday, I had a name and an address of where she was living. Mm-hmm. On the Sunday, Shaz and I take a drive over to this address.
Good heavens, that's brave.
Now, obviously, this is some 30 years later. It would have been 28, 29, 20, 28, 29. Would have been 29. So this is some years later. So we go to the address, and I don't want to knock on the door. The house was called Bravo Villa.
Bravo Villa, okay.
Bravo Villa was the name of the house.
So probably something to do with the police force or something like that, or something to do with the services, I would imagine.
Maybe it was an old police house. I don't know. So it was on a short lane. There was only a few properties down it in a small country lane. A few properties on it, no numbers, just house names. And we couldn't find one that said Bravo Villa. We found one that said Sandy, was called Sandy. And I said to Shaz, that'd be good if it's that one. Obviously, being an Andy and her name being a Shaz, put the two together, Sandy. And so anyway, we saw this woman walking a dog. And I said, excuse me, would you happen to know if a family by the surname Summers live at that address? And she said she didn't know, but she said, there's a chap that lives in a little white bungalow next door. Speak to him. He's lived there since 1970. So we went and knocked, and it was a little German guy called Tony. And he took us in, made us a cup of tea, and it was very lovely. Very lovely. He said that, yes, he knew the family. He knew my mum when she lived there. He'd moved in 1970. She'd already had me by then, but knew nothing about me because it was all a big secret. It was all a big secret. And but he confirmed that she lived there, but they didn't live there anymore. The family didn't live there anymore. They'd moved on, and that she'd married. So he said she's married a guy called Bill, who used to work at the dairy. So from his house, Shaz and I went to the dairy and spoke to the owner of the dairy, who confirmed that, yeah, Bill used to work with us, but he doesn't work with us anymore. And he's moved out of the village. He's moved to the next village along. So gave us his address, and we went to that property. And again, I didn't want to go and knock. I just wanted to know where she was. Just wanted to try and locate her. And went to that property, and there was a woman looking out of a window in the house opposite, just peering for out of her curtains like that at me loitering in the street. So I approached her and I asked if Jackie and Bill lived in the house opposite, and she said yes, they do. So I had my mum's address, knew where she was living, and we got in a van, went to a local pub. Shaz and I had a drink and drove home. And then it took me about 3 weeks.
At that moment, Andy, when you had the realization, I can only partly imagine, when you had the realization, that's the home you're going to find your mother. How did you feel?
It was surreal. It was. I know that word is used a lot, surreal, but I'd not experienced a feeling like that before. I was excited. I was nervous. I was frightened because I didn't know where this journey was going to take me. I still didn't know the circumstances of why I'd been giving up for adoption. So, although, yes, that's where my mother lives, she may want nothing to do with me. You've got all of these emotions. This is why it took me 3 or 4 weeks to write the letter. I wrote multiple letters and they kept getting screwed up and thrown in the bin, Tried to word it just right, because I didn't know if Bill, her husband, knew about me. I didn't know if she had any other children and if they knew about me. I didn't know if she'd been raped. I didn't know what her mental health state was like. I knew nothing. And what I did know was that once I got in contact with her, there's no going back from that. She will know I've got in contact, and it either goes forward or it stops there. But whichever case, it could potentially ruin her life and her husband's life and her kids' life if she had any. So there's a lot of confrontation and arguments and going on in my head as to whether, as much as I still wanted to make contact, now I've got these conflicting arguments trying to put me off. So it's very difficult. But I did pluck up the courage eventually to finish a letter and send it, of which I have a copy here.
Okay. Can you read us that letter, Andy?
Yeah. So this is after umpteen rewrites. So this is dated the 24th of May. So bear in mind, I was standing outside her house at the end of early March. We're now the end of May. So it's 2 months it's taken me. I thought it was 3 or 4 weeks. 2 months it's taken me to finish and send her this letter. So, dear Mrs. Burrows, this letter has turned out to be the most difficult letter I've ever had to write, and probably one which you have either been waiting for or dreading over the years. I'm hopeful that you are formerly Jacqueline Ann Summers of Bravo Villas, West Burgolt. If you're not, then I apologise for taking up your time and you need read no further. If you are, however, I hope that you are sitting down with a stiff drink nearby. My current name is Andrew David Martin, formerly David John Summers, and quite possibly your son, who you gave up for adoption in 1969. You can have some of your stiff drink now. It must be at least a couple of months since I went to West Burgolt in the search for Bravo Villas, and of course you. Bravo Villas now called Sandy's, and you've moved away. Luckily, I bumped into a nice lady walking her dog. So this is a lot of this is what I've told you, but it's written down here. Met a nice lady walking her dog. I told her that I was looking for you and suggested that I spoke to Tony, a small friendly man at Silver Lees. He pointed me in the direction of Mr. Ian Plowright. That was the guy that ran the dairy, who gave me directions to your bungalow. I made a note of the address, confirmed with some neighbours, that a family with the name Burrows lived there and then came home intent on writing this letter. I can't imagine how you are reacting to this. Happy, I hope, but I hope not upset or angry. A few nights ago, there was a report on Anglia News featuring a group called the National Parent Support Group. It featured the story of two mothers who had given up their children for adoption in the late 60s, and how others had tried to locate their natural children over the years, but had come up with little or nothing. It was this report that made me determined to finish this letter and finally send it. At least now, should you be in similar circumstances, i.e. trying to trace me, now you can. I've known about my adoption for many years, and it's always been on my mind, curious as to who my natural mother was, and with many questions to ask, like why was I given up for adoption? Do I look like you? Do I have any brothers or sisters? My greatest fear when I went to West Burgo was to find that you were dead. I'd never know my beginnings. At least I know you're alive, and hopefully one day we'll meet again. I know that you are married, and my worry is that your husband, if not my natural father, because I didn't know whether Bill was or wasn't my natural father, may not know about me. The last thing I want to do is come between you and your family. But I guess that is I guess that something like this is going to be difficult for all concerned. Sorry, I've got terrible handwriting.
I can't even read your own handwriting.
I can't even read my own handwriting. I'm hopeful. I can't remember the last time I wrote a letter, handwritten a letter. I can't, probably this.
People don't write letters, but you didn't have an email address, so I get it, absolutely.
So I'm hopeful that you will be pleased by getting in touch and that one day soon we shall meet again. Unfortunately, I was too young to remember our first meeting. Yours faithfully, Andrew. So that was the letter that I sent her on the 24th of May in 1998.
And that letter, as you say, took you several weeks to write.
Yeah.
I mean, more than you remember, yeah?
Yeah, it's weird because I remember it as 3 or 4 weeks. I knew that it was a long time, but I thought, even 3 or 4 weeks sounds ridiculous. But looking at the dates on the letter...
Were you ever tempted, Andy, to start the letter, Dear Mum?
No, because I didn't know if she was my mother at this point. As much as everything is pointing to her, I still didn't know at this point. It's strange. When I write in a birthday card to her or a Christmas card, I put Mum. But when I talk to her or I refer to her to, my brothers or sisters, I call her Jackie. It's strange. All these years later, it seems very odd calling her Mum. I want to call her Mum. And my brothers and sisters keep saying to me, why don't you call her Mum? But it's weird. Because my adopted mother passed away 10 years ago this month. And so it's strange. I always think of her as my mum, but Jackie, although she's my mother, obviously, she's not my mum. It's strange. It's strange. So she wrote back to me within the week.
Within 1 week. So what was the date you posted the letter?
Well, the date of her letter was the 29th of May. So I wrote my letter on the 24th.
Right.
So she would have got it maybe the 25th, 26th, and she wrote back to me on the 29th.
I know that whenever you're expecting something in the post, you rush down, wait to see if the relevant thing has ever happened. Tell me about that week from when you first posted the letter until the letter finally turned up.
It's that moment that you let go of that letter. Once it goes in that letterbox, there's no going back. It's things are going to either turn out right, turn out wrong. It's either going to go drastically wrong. So yeah, I sent my letter on that date. Obviously, I wasn't expecting a reply for at least 2 days, but you're hopeful that something's going to come sooner rather than later. And I remember the postman coming. Shaz and I were in bed, And I remember the postman coming, and I jumped out of bed, went to the door, and I picked up the mail, and I was looking at the franks to see where they'd been sent from, and there was one from Colchester with a handwritten address on the front, and I knew that was that was it. And yeah, it was very exciting, very, very exciting. I ran and jumped into bed next to Shaz. I was like a child at Christmas.
Right, with the unopened letter,
with the unopened letter, and I sat there looking at it for ages, going, you know, this is it. This is she's either gonna confirm that she is my mum or she's not my mum. She is my mum, yes, great, or I am your mum and I want nothing to do with you. You know, all of this is going around in my head while I'm sitting there holding this letter. And yeah, when I opened it and read it, I'm happy to say that it was good news. And I have it here. Would you, as I have, I'm not going to read them all out, but as I have every letter that we sent and corresponded to each other.
I certainly, I mean, if you're happy to share that, because I can picture you, because I've been there myself, when you're expecting a letter, and you don't know whether it's exam results or whatever. I used to, when I got exam results, you take the letter and you run to the top of the house and you'd look at it for a little while. That is nothing compared to the importance of the letter you've received a week afterwards. And I can see you, because you're a very emotional guy, and you virtually every day you'll be waiting for that little flap, the noise that it makes as the postman arrives, and you'll be rushing down looking at the bills and other bits and pieces, and nothing there. Every day must have been a disappointment until you get that letter from Colchester.
I wouldn't say it was a disappointment. It's, you know, as much as I was hoping that something was going to turn up sooner rather than later, I think if it had got to 6 months and I still hadn't heard anything, I think I would have been disappointed. I also think if it had got to 6 months, I would have known the answer. But yeah, to come just a few days, it was very, very, very exciting.
So you sat in bed with Shaz. You've got this.
Well, Shaz obviously didn't know what journey we were about to go on, if any.
But you discussed this with Shaz. She might have helped you draft the first letter, not using "Dear Mum," but the lady's name and so on and so forth. She helped. I imagine as part of that process.
Shaz has been incredibly supportive through all of this. Incredibly supportive, and you know, she was as keen to have Jackie at the wedding as I was. And so yeah, she's no doubt about it. She's been my rock through all of this. No doubt. Even, you know, she's out in the garden, she's sunbathing, she knows nothing about this. Well, she knows about the cat, but she doesn't know that I'm bigging her up like this. But I'm sure she will when she watches it back. So yeah, she's been incredibly supportive with this, and you know, was by me and read the letter with me as I opened it, and yeah.
Did you read it out loud, the letter, or you were both picture it? So you're holding the letter. Describe the scene. Tell me what happened. You've rushed upstairs. The postman's done. Your heart is no doubt beating.
Well, we were in a flat, so I didn't have any stairs to run up.
Oh, okay.
We were ground floor flat at the time, and I just opened it, and no, I didn't read it out loud. I just read it to myself, and Shaz was next to me. She was reading it as I was reading it, but I wasn't reading it out loud. And yeah, it was incredibly emotional and very exciting. And yeah.
So you set the scene in your head, and you're going through these things. This is the letter. Let's hear the letter.
This is the letter that either lets me know that she is my mother, and whether we're going to go forward with something or not go forward with something. It all basically hinges around this letter. So, dear Andrew, like you, I'm finding this letter very hard to write. I think I'm still in shock, but let me tell you straight away, not angry. That's a good start. You are right in asking if I was once Jacqueline Ann Summers of West Burgold. I'd always hoped that you would one day contact me. As I've... there we go again. Bear with. I'm trying to make this so upbeat and happy that it just gets me. It's all right. Sorry. So I'd always hoped that you would one day contact me, as I've never forgotten you. Jesus. Well, this is turning out to be harder than I thought it would. Okay. I'd always hoped that you would one day contact me, as I have never forgotten you or stopped hurting at being made to give you up all those years ago. When I left the hospital after looking after you for just short 8 days, it was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever had to do. After you were adopted, your parents sent me a lovely letter and a photo of you, both of which I still have to this day. As you already know, I am married, not to your natural father. My husband knew about you before we married, and I've shown him your letter. I have 4 grown-up children. The youngest will be 19 next month. 1 boy called Michael David, and 3 girls, Hayley, Tina, and Lynette, who unfortunately do not know about you. I know that there are lots of things that you want to know, but I feel I cannot put them down on paper. Therefore, I hope you will write to me again, and like you, I hope we will be able to meet again. Yours faithfully, Jackie. Yeah, so it was good. Sorry, bear with me, Andrew. Sorry. Thank you. So here's me, and there's me. That's me.
And that was taken by your adoptive parents, and they sent that to your natural mother.
Yeah, and that was sent 7 months after the adoption. So Jackie was 16 when she had me, and her pregnancy was too far gone for a termination. She never told her parents that she was pregnant, but by the time they realised that she was pregnant, obviously pregnant, she was too far gone. And it was decided for her that I was going to be adopted.
Who decided?
Her parents.
Your grandparents?
Yeah. Her father more than anything. There was no way she was keeping me. So I'm quite thankful, really, that she was as far along in her pregnancy as she was before the family found out. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here chatting with me now, and there would be no Dalek on that shelf. Yeah, she gave birth to me in Colchester General Hospital. She stayed with me for 8 days, and then she left, and she had to leave me in the hospital. I was then given to a foster family. I have no idea who they were. Got no record of that at all. And then my father was 5 years older than Jackie, so he was 20, coming up 21 when I was born, and he wanted me. Obviously, when the family found out that she was pregnant, they warned off Brian, my dad, was warned off. Stay away from the family. That's it. It's over. It's done. He wanted to bring me up himself. I've later found out. But Jackie's family weren't having it. And Jackie's 3 brothers made it very clear to Brian that he should sign the release papers for me so that I could be put up for adoption. So that's what happened. They never saw each other again. And I was adopted.
So in those days, talk me through the procedure. You say that both parents, your father Brian and also your mother, have to sign papers agreeing to, as you were to use, to give you away. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Well, that's what my father's told me. That's what my father told me happened. He said that they basically threatened to beat him up if he didn't. And he wasn't in a position anyway to have brought up a kid. But he would have done if he could have done. Yeah. Would you like to hear the letter that my adopted mother sent to Jackie with that photo?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
So, dear Jackie, I'm enclosing a photo of Andrew taken when he was 5 months old. As you will see, he is a gorgeous baby.
There you go.
Eh? And very bonny. In fact, I won the bonniest baby in Harlow competition that year.
Not only Children's Entertainment of the Year 2012, but bonniest baby.
1970, the bonniest baby of Harlow competition. It was in the Harlow Star and everything.
Amazing. You know when people always talk about award-winning magicians, you are one.
There you go, from a very early age. You'll see it's a gorgeous baby. Sorry, I had to read that bit again. It's a gorgeous baby, very bonny, and we are very proud of him. He is 7 months old now. Of course, he has 6 teeth, 4 at the top, 2 at the bottom. He's the most contented baby I've ever known and rarely cries. I think I've cried more today than I did when I was a baby. He has made our lives complete. In fact, now we can't imagine what life was like without him. We love him so much, as does all the family. One of my brothers has 4 daughters. He's got 4 daughters. One of our brothers, he's got 4 daughters. And we dearly love his son, so you can imagine how he feels right now. Yeah, you can imagine how my mum feels about having to give her son up. I thought that was a little bit tactless, that bit. But anyway, we had him christened on Easter Sunday. And he was so good, everyone was looking at him. I would like to add, Jackie, that you need never fear that he'll be short of love. And also, I think we're doing a pretty good job in not spoiling him, which I believe you were a bit worried about. I must admit, I have to watch my husband. He will if he gets a chance. But it's very hard. He's so lovely. And I'll try and be a bit firm with him. The day we collected him, and that day in March when he became ours. So I was in foster care then from October to March before they collected me, and the adoption became official. So the day we collected him and that day in March when he became ours are the happiest in our lives. And we have you and the Adoption Society to thank for it. We shall never forget you, Jackie. And when Andrew is old enough to understand, we shall explain why you made the terribly hard decision to give him up. I'm not sure that was true, being told under the circumstances that I was. My husband and I send you our warmest wishes for your future. Good luck, Jackie.
And that letter, Andy, does it have your adopted mother's address on it?
No, it did not have, and it didn't have her name on it either.
So the way that people corresponded, did they do that through the adoption agency?
It was through the adoption agency. So my mother would have written the letter without her name and address on the letter, without her name on the letter, because obviously there cannot be any way that Jackie can trace me.
But there was a statement. Yeah, there was a statement in that letter where your adopted mother says I know one of the things you're concerned about is in case we spoil the baby.
Yeah.
So where would she have got that information from?
I guess that when Jackie had the handover, that Jackie would have, said, because Jackie wanted to keep me. There's no doubt about it. Jackie wanted to keep me. So you can imagine the kind of conversation that would have gone on between Jackie and the adoption worker. And Jackie would have probably given her concerns about where I'm going, and they would have tried to alleviate and say that, he's going to go to a lovely family. We won't, blah, 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 blah. So that's probably where that came from. I mean, I'm just guessing.
Oh, no, sure. But I'm thinking about it logically, because you first of all went into foster care for 6 months. So if there had been a conversation, it would have gone in foster care. It therefore would have been written down. It may not even be the same person from the foster agency.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. So there's quite possibly a file somewhere.
Well, there will be. There will be a file somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's my point. And so when you're looking at letters that could be written, I mean, this is a lot of the people I speak to about this sort of area. They always say, well, okay, they would have known my birthday, they would have known about Christmas, they would have known whatever. When people hand over the papers, is there a bundle of letters that have been written on your birthday? Say, look, I really wanted to keep you, but I couldn't. Was there an explanation? Were there any papers at all? Were you given any letters?
I've not got any, no. And when my adopted mother passed away, and I've got all of her important documents in a file, which includes my the court dates for the adoption, when the adoption went ahead. There's nothing in there like that. I mean, I felt very sorry for James when you were chatting with James the other day, and his records having been burnt.
No, it was tragic. I think that all got us, because for him, I mean, yours, it's getting towards a happy ending. We'll carry on with that story in a bit. But for James, and do watch the video, the James Fortune interview in this sort of side. There's every possibility that his mother could have said, look, I'm open to having a conversation, but because the records were destroyed, James never knew about it. Never knew about it until it was way, way, way too late. And that's tragic.
Yeah, it really is. Don't get me wrong. I consider myself extremely lucky that I've been able to do all this, and in such a short time as well. And everything seems to have fallen into place along the way. And not everybody is, nowhere near as many people are as fortunate as I have been with this. Even watching Davina McCall's program, they come up against brick walls. Whereas this whole process for me, well, finding my mother was easy. From my first phone call to Somerset House on Monday, I'm standing outside our house on the Sunday. That's
incredible, because there's also a name change with the document showing that name change. So yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So we corresponded from May. We didn't actually meet until July. Look, I've got a tea.
Oh, wonderful! I'll show you your mug. What does it say on your mug? Let's have a look.
It's a Dalek mug.
Of course, fantastic.
It's a Dalek and a what were these things called? I can't remember what they was called now. The statues, the angels. Weeping angels.
Weeping angels. There you go. And I've got an appropriate mug as well. There you go.
Daddy Bear. There you go. So we corresponded by letter. We didn't actually meet until July. It took a while before we got to meet. But when we did, this is the first photo of us.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so talk me through that day then. So she'd written the letter. You look very similar. You look incredibly happy as well. So and there's obviously only just a small age gap between you. So you're only 16 years age difference.
16 years different, yeah. So it's crazy to think that I'm a lot older now than Jackie was when she come to visit me for the first time. And that's just crazy. I can't imagine what I'd do if a 30-year-old turned up on my doorstep now. I go, "Oh, Dad." Just, how'd you cope with that? Which I think is why it took so long and letters backwards and forwards, getting to know each other a little bit. I mean, you know, she didn't know what I was after. I might have been some kind of lunatic out for revenge for having been put up for adoption, but it was never like that. It was just a case of wanting to know how I came about. And
who was the first to suggest meeting?
Well, I think I suggested it in my very first letter, didn't I? I hope we can meet again soon. Yeah, so I wanted to meet her, but once she confirmed, once she confirmed that she was my mother, yeah, she said that we can meet. You know, she'd like to meet again. So I guess it was her, because the confirmation had been done then. So I guess it was her. But it still took several letters backwards and forwards. You know, finding out what each of us did. It was all very exciting. It was all very exciting leading up to the first meet. She never told her kids about me for 6 years. Her children never knew about me for 6 years after I'd got in touch. Her children never knew. But the meeting was very odd, because I wanted to give her a big hug. I wanted that big hug and the tears, like you see on long lost families. But it wasn't that. I was nervous, frightened. I know everything had gone along nice in the letters. Everything was cool in the letters. We were getting on well, and we actually did get on well. But there was still a very, very strange atmosphere, but a pleasant atmosphere. You know, it was a great evening. It went like that. You know, it seemed almost as quick as I arrived, because she came over with Bill, her husband, who is not my father. Came over with him, and it was a lovely evening. And I think it was just an evening of pleasantries, really, of being nice to each other.
Tell me, before that, the first time you set eyes on your mother in the flesh. First time.
Yes.
Talk me through the emotions and what you said.
Well, she arrived. She parked outside we had a ground floor flat at the time, and we had a parking space that we'd kept vacant for them. So we knew that they were going to park. We knew they were on their way, and we had a rough idea of when they would arrive. And I could see the parking space from the living room. And I was constantly just walking around. I couldn't rest, just constantly walking around backwards and forwards in the kitchen, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, back into the lounge again, constantly looking out. Nervous. You know, and it's not like any gig I've ever done. It's not like, you know, when you're backstage waiting to go on stage in front of, you know, a couple of thousand people. Nothing like those nerves. It was completely different. And the car pulled up, and I remember that she stood out, and I kind of went numb at that moment. And you know, all the nerves just stopped. Everything at that moment just stopped. And it was, you know, it was like they were getting out of the car in slow motion, and it was slowly sinking in that was my mother coming towards me. So yeah, so I wasn't. It was strange. I wasn't tearful like I've teared up reading these letters. I wasn't tearful. I was quite level-headed, and but happy. But you know, but happy. And she came in the flat, and you know, had a hug. Not a long hug, just a friendly hello. I'm your son. Hello, I'm your mum. And
were those the words you used?
To be honest with you, I cannot remember. I cannot remember the first words I said to her.
Because so often, and I've known you for a number of years, and you're a very outgoing guy, and everything's a joke. But so often we have what I call the joke cloak, where it hides the deep down torment and tortured inside as a result of it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm tormented. You know, I'm okay. You know, I don't think I need any help, Andrew. But yeah, that happens with a lot of entertainers. We put on a face when we go out, and behind closed doors, we can be completely different personalities. Absolutely, which is why I think so many entertainers, you know, become depressed. I guess. I mean, it's lovely. I mean, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable off stage. I'm comfortable on stage. I'm comfortable in a room full of 2,000 people. I'm comfortable in a room on my own for long periods of time. I'm very comfortable with myself. And as much as I, you know, during this lockdown, as much as I miss performing and getting out and having that adrenaline rush feeding you, you know, we feed off this adrenaline, and it is a drug. I'm very lucky that I don't have the downs that some people do. I'm very happy in amusing myself, you know, learning to play Bad Moon Rising on the piano, doing some video editing, you know, walking the dog. You know, I'm very, very content, very happy in my own space and my own time. And I'm very happy to chat about this. It's just that there are moments as you're doing it that all of a sudden you smack on the back of the head, and the emotions come flooding. Yeah, but all is good. I forgot, where were we? I went off on one, did I?
No, I think we were in your room. You were giving your mother a hug. We spoke about the first words. You weren't quite sure if she said, "Hello, Mum." Oh, you said, "Hello, hello, Mum," and she said, "Hello, son." You weren't quite sure those first words. It was all a bit numb, is what you were saying. That's how you described it.
It's all a bit of a. The meeting is a bit of a blurry dream. I remember her arriving. I remember sitting there, looking at her, thinking that's my mum, and then it was over. And that's all I can really remember about it.
How long was she there for then? Was it only a short time?
Well, like I said, it seemed to go by in a flash. She may have been there for 3 hours or more, which is very likely. She came over one evening, you know, more than likely got there at 7, left at 10, because they live over Colchester way, so they've got an hour's drive back. So it's very likely that they were there from 7 till 10. But it's like that, and it's just a blur. I remember the photo being taken.
Who took it?
Shaz. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very good camera, so the picture's very blurred. And
Hold it up again. Let's have a look.
You didn't have phones like this. There were no selfies.
No selfies. Hold up the picture again. Let's have a look.
So it's. I mean, I know it's behind a polylope, but I think there's no doubt that that's my mother. And when you see my father, you'll go, "Oh yeah, okay." Yeah. So it took 6 years before Jackie could tell the girls, because one of her daughters had a friend that had had a child at a very young age, and one of my sisters apparently went home and said to her mum, my mum, "I can't understand how anybody can give a child up for adoption. Just cannot get my head around anybody giving their child up for adoption. Why would they do it?" And that played on her, and she was nervous about telling 2 of the girls. She knew would be fine, but it was one of them. So, and I found that very difficult and frustrating because I wanted to try and progress. We'd got so far. I'd met her. I'd met Bill. We went out for lunches several times, and we'd chat about the family. And but I never got to meet them, and I was finding it very frustrating. Obviously, I can't force her to. I couldn't force her to do it. And even for her 50th birthday, Shaz and I got an invite to her 50th birthday. and we went, and we were friends of theirs. We were friends of theirs from Harlow, and the reason that we became friends from Harlow was that Jackie's husband, Bill, in 1997 was working on the Tesco's site in Harlow when it was being built, and broke his back and spent 3 weeks in Harlow Hospital. That's January 1997. So it's just over a year before I contacted Jackie. And so Bill spent 3 weeks in Harlow Hospital before being transferred. And Jackie would come over to Harlow every day that he was, and she would pass our house, our flat, driving into Harlow and driving out of Harlow. Yet she had no idea that she was driving to and from the town that her son lived in. So because we were coming from Harlow, that was a story that she told the family, that we were friends. We'd become friends while Bill was in hospital in Harlow.
And were you complicit in that story? So you had to agree that with her?
I did go along with it. And every time, you know, the girls would say, "So how did you meet then?" I'd say, "Well, you'll have to ask your mum." She'll tell you. So we went along to the 50th.
So just to be clear then, Andy, before the 50th birthday, your mother wanted you to come to celebrate her 50th birthday.
Well, it was actually her husband invited us. Jackie didn't know that we were going.
Okay. So who told you about the story then, this fictitious story?
Well, Jackie had already told me that because she'd be coming over to Harlow regularly to see me and Shaz. We'd go out for a meal with Bill and Shaz. And her daughters would say, "Where are you going?" We're going to Harlow to meet our friends, Andy and Sharon.
The story had already been the scene.
So the story, yeah,
the story.
It was already there.
And it was Bill, her new husband, who suggested that you should go to her 50th.
Yes, but Bill and Jackie, I don't know how long they've been married, but they've got 4 kids. They got together shortly. They got together in the 70s, and they've been married many years, and had 4 children. And but Bill knew about me right from the off, and Bill's been very good. I mean, it must be very difficult for partners, you know, if one partner has a secret child and hasn't said anything, you know, 30 years down the line, there's this bombshell. I've got a secret child. How do you cope with that? But I mean, luckily Bill knew. Jackie had told him that she'd had me and that I'd been adopted, and you know, maybe one day I would get in touch. Jackie would always hope that I would get in touch. Bill used to say to me that she would always get depressed on my birthday. She would always sink into a low and go very quiet and keep herself to herself on my birthday every year, which is quite sad. Quite sad. But nice to know she was always thinking, but very frustrating that she couldn't do anything. She couldn't trace me. That must be so hard.
Well, but that's my point, is that the adoption agency were open. This is why you're exchanging correspondence beforehand or afterwards, after the adoption.
It was one way. It was one way. So if you're going to say, why couldn't Jackie have written to the adoption agency and they passed it on, it was one way. It was to come from my adopted family to her, but couldn't come back. They couldn't pass letters backwards and forwards, if that's what you're about to say.
I'm just asking. I'm not sure. Maybe get clarification on this. Is that your adopted parents made reference to the fact that Jackie was concerned that you weren't spoiled? That's the phrase that sticks.
Yeah.
And there's a 6-month gap from when you went to foster parents before you finally adopted. As I said beforehand, there's therefore a record of what your mother said. And I know from talking to others that sometimes they can send letters and so on and so forth. Is it something you've discussed with Jackie?
Well, as whether or not she sent any more letters? No, I've not. She's not said that she has, and I've not questioned her on it. No. So I don't know. Be interesting to know. I'll ask her next time I see her. I should have asked her this morning. I was speaking to
I
her.
know. But that's, I think, sometimes when you talk, the same happened with James, is when you talk through things, because you're right, and Bill's told you that every day on September the 30th, your birthday, Jackie would feel terrible because her first son, basically her only son, wasn't there, and she was thinking about it. So whether she wrote a diary entry, whether she might have written a letter but not posted it, whether she's going to present you with, this is what I thought of on your birthday each year as you were growing up.
I see. No, there was nothing. I wasn't her only son. She did have another son and 3 daughters with Bill.
Right. So there was another son. Okay, you mentioned the 3 daughters. Okay.
Yeah.
So we had that 50th birthday party. Okay.
Yeah, we went to the 50th birthday. Now the plan was, because Bill was quite happy for everybody to know about me. It was Jackie that had the reservations, and Jackie said to me that when I went to her 50th as her friends from Harlow, it's quite funny because although there's not much of an age gap between us, really, 16 years. If you're gonna make friends, you normally make friends of a similar age. So when Shaz and I turned up at the 50th and we were introduced as the friends, there was an obvious, hang on, how are they friends? There's at least 2 generation gaps between them. How have they become friends? And I think the girls thought that there was something more going on than their mum was letting on. Now Jackie had told me that had Michael, her other son, if he had been there that night, he was unable to make her 50th birthday party, unfortunately. But she said to me, had he been there as well, she would have come clean and told everybody on that night. All of her kids would have found out at the same time. But he wasn't, so she didn't. So it went on a little bit longer. But I remember after Jackie's 50th, that was in the March, around September time, Shaz and I were due to meet up with Bill and Jackie for a night, and Bill couldn't make it for some reason. So Tina, one of my sisters, decided that she was going to invite herself along and try and do a bit of digging. So she, so that was very awkward. But fun.
What did they think? I mean, you mentioned about your sisters being at this 50th. I want to take you back to the 50th birthday party, because that's the first time that you see your half sisters in the family. Yes?
Yeah.
Do you remember, and talk me through this, you walk into the room just as beforehand, your heart must have been...
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And even thinking about that moment now, it's probably bringing it all back to you. You go into this room. Describe, where was the 50th birthday party? Where was it?
It was in their local pub.
Okay, what was the pub called?
Oh, let's go with the White Hart. I think it was the White Hart.
Anyway,
I know where it is.
Might have been the White Hart or the Black Beauty or one of those. But
I'm pretty sure it was the White Hart.
Okay, you walk into the White Hart.
Yeah.
Going like this.
Yeah.
You've got this lie going around in your head that you had to pretend you're friends from Harlow. And you realise that it didn't quite sound right because 16-year age gap. You're probably not much older than her own children. You walk into that room. Tell me how you're feeling, and tell me when you first spot your sisters.
Well, it was. I mean, obviously, you're happy to meet them and excited to meet them, but you can't say you'd have loved to have gone. I'm your brother. But I couldn't do that. So that was, it was weird. It was, I mean, happy to meet them, but also frustrated because I want to tell them, I'm your brother. There it is. Boom. 3 words. Boom. I'm your brother. But I so wanted to tell them. And we sat there and we got on well because, like you say, there's not a massive age difference between us. So we got on really well. and we chatted about what we did. I think I did some magic. I had a pack of cards. I remember I had a black shirt and I had a pair of Moschino jeans on with playing cards on them. And I had a pack of cards in my pocket. So, you know what it's like, Andrew. You do a bit of magic to break the ice. And it was great. But I just couldn't tell them because as many people that there were in the pub was full. Shaz and I just sat with my sisters and their partners and got on brilliantly. And we found out that Tina and Danny, Danny was Tina's boyfriend. They'd got engaged to get married, and they were getting married later that year. Was it that year? The following year. They were getting married the following year, and the date that they booked for their wedding was the 8th of August, which was the day that Shaz and I got married.
Yeah,
my sister,
always very lucky.
My sister had chosen the same day. Obviously, a different year. Oh, I've not even spoken about the wedding, have I?
Not yet.
No, I've jumped.
No, that's okay. We'll take you back to the wedding, but just while you're at the party, and we'll go back to the wedding, but whilst you're at the party, were all of your sisters and their partners on the same table?
Yeah, we all sat around the same area. Someone stood behind me at the bar, but we were all in that same locale in the pub.
But did you join them at the table? Who made the first move? Did you go over to them and say, hi, Andy, I'm a friend from...
Well, good evening. I'm a magician. I've been booked by the management to come and entertain you. I remember walking into the pub and seeing my mum's face.
Oh, your mum didn't know you were going to be there?
Didn't know I was going because Bill had invited us.
And that was her surprise?
Yes. So that was, I'd love to have a picture there. I mean, she was just open mouthed and she just stopped talking immediately. I walked in and she turned around and saw me and it was like that. And you could see all of what was going through her head. Oh my God, my son's here. My daughters are here. They don't know. So that was great. But I went over to them and then she introduced me to Hayley, Tina, but she introduced us as her friends from Harlow.
But you say that was great. I imagine the reality is that you must have felt terrible, didn't you?
No, and I told you I was frustrated that I couldn't tell them. But you got to remember, I'd been in contact with her for a number of years now. This is the first time I've met them. And if meeting them by pretending that I'm just a friend from Harlow is going to be my way of meeting them, then I'm going to take it.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to picture the situation myself. If I met my half-sister, you'll be staring at them for ages, trying to work out, having a look at the family resemblance, maybe resenting the years that you've missed, the wasted opportunities. All of that must have been going through your head, wasn't it?
Well, it was, because like you say, you're looking for similarities. And there's definitely similarities between me and my mum, which is obvious when we stand side by side. Hang on a minute. But then with one of my sisters, Lynette, there's a striking resemblance between me and her. And you can also see a resemblance between me and the other girls as well. And also my brother Michael, although he wasn't there, Jackie had given me a photo of him. And there's a likeness between me and him. So, yeah, it's very, I mean, nobody said that night, hang on a minute, what's going on here then? There's more going on to this than you're just friends from Harlow. It was just a very pleasant evening. And I come out and saying goodbye to everybody. That was weird. Giving your sister a kiss on the cheek, saying goodbye, and a hug and a kiss on the cheek, me knowing that she's my sister, and her just thinking that I'm just a friend of the family. That was happy, sad as well. So many emotions, Andrew. Yeah. So that was her 50th. We've gone back to her 50th again, haven't we? A lot happened at her 50th. But like I said, I've gone past the wedding. Didn't tell you about the wedding.
Take us back to the wedding, the 8th of August.
I'm going to take you back to 1998. Which is why I got in, one of the reasons that I got in touch with her that year was so that she could come to the wedding. And our first meet we spoke about the first meet, which was the 27th of July, and I showed you the picture.
Yep.
And we got married on the 8th of August.
So a couple of weeks afterwards.
And she came. She said that we invited her. She said that she wouldn't be able to come. She couldn't come. She couldn't bring herself to come. So we weren't expecting her there. But on the day she turned up, and boom!
Oh, fantastic!
What a handsome chap! Look at that goatee bit. Why do I like to grow a goatee?
Because you're quite close in age. You could almost be the bride and groom.
You see, you can see there's more of a likeness there than the last picture.
But absolutely.
So she came to the wedding, which was lovely. Because,
How did you introduce her at the wedding?
Well, she was there for the service. She came for the service. So I didn't get a chance to say to everybody, "Hey, everyone, this is my mum." And
you want to?
Oh yeah. I had no problem shouting it out that she was my mum. So couldn't do it before the service, and then after the service was the photos, which is when we got the photos. So Shaz and I are busy having our photos taken, and then when we went in.
Sorry, Andy. At the photos, photographers always say, "And now the bride and groom's family." What happened at that moment?
She didn't come over for that one.
That did happen. That was that moment, wasn't there?
No, she never came over for that one. She stayed to one side. I tried to call her over, but she didn't want to know. Well, I'm not going to say didn't want to know. Didn't feel like she had the right to be in the photo. Did you?
I'm just picturing this moment. As I say, just trying to work it out, because that's exactly what the photographers do. Any wedding photographer, they have a list, don't they? Yeah. They say, right, I want the bride's family, I want the groom's family, I want them all together.
Yeah, and he did all that. So when it got to my family, calling her over, she said no. She didn't feel like she deserved to be there. So that's why I've got this one done as a separate, just to prove that she was at the wedding. Because unfortunately, after the photo was taken and we went in to have the wedding breakfast, she couldn't. She felt that she couldn't stay. She felt very awkward, and guilty, and obviously there's a lot of emotions going through her mind. That she left, and in a letter that she sent me following the wedding, she said that it was lovely to come and see the service, and that when she left, she got to a roundabout and drove around a roundabout. Was going to come back. She nearly came back, but she didn't. She carried on home. But I did tell everybody when I made my speech. I did tell everyone that she had been there.
Okay.
And I finally got to introduce her to everybody at my 30th.
Right.
When I had a 30th birthday party.
At the wedding, everybody was there. So was that the first time you publicly announced that you'd found your mother and she's there? What were the words you used? Tell me.
No. It's what did I say? Because my adopted mum wasn't there. She didn't want to come to the wedding.
Did you want her to be there?
I did. Of course I did. But no, she was adamant that she wasn't going.
Course, but there was a period of time when you fell out with your adopted mum, you had to leave and so on and so forth. And you mentioned that before. But you patched up with your adopted mum.
Patched up to a degree. So, yeah, I mentioned it during my speech that I'd found my mum and that she had been at the wedding, but unfortunately I had to go. It just moved on. It's not something that you linger on.
But you're a consummate professional as a performer. You can judge your audience. You can judge your audience. And if it's the first time that people would have heard out of your mouth a number of things, firstly, a lot of people there would have assumed that your adopted mother was your real mother.
Mm.
It's the first time you've told people not only that you've been adopted, but actually that your biological mother was there.
Well,
Your friends and family and various other people must have been shocked, weren't they?
the friends and family, I mean, I didn't have a great deal of family there. I had a very small family anyway. I didn't have cousins, aunts, uncles, anything like that there. Apart from, I had one table. I think I had one table where I had an aunt and an uncle and their two daughters on. That was my only family.
Did they know before the day?
They did. They did. They didn't know that she was going to be there. But while we were there for the photos, I introduced them, and they chatted. Just that small group. And my aunt was very welcoming to Jackie. Now, obviously, my aunt would have been my dad's sister, and he'd already passed, and she knew that I was searching, and so everyone knew that I'd been searching. The only one that didn't know and never ever found out that I was searching for my mother was my adopted mum. I kept it from her. Never told her that I was searching. Never told her that I found her. Never told her that we'd met. She had, she never knew.
So
she never knew. That would have been awkward if she'd have come to the wedding.
That's what I was just going to say. So your adopted mum had been invited to the wedding. You patched up, and maybe not as fully, but you'd invited her to the wedding. She said she wasn't going to come.
Mm.
If she had accepted, would you have told her beforehand that you'd found and invited your biological mother, or was that going to be a big surprise?
You would have liked to have thought so, but the truthful answer to that is I don't know, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that my biological mother, I didn't know my birth mother was going to be at the wedding anyway. She'd had an invite, but I didn't know that she was going to be there until the day. So, had my adopted mother turned up,
you'd already told your uncle, you'd already told other people.
Yeah.
The only person you hadn't told who would know was your adopted mother. So, that wasn't the real reason.
What wasn't the real reason?
Well, if you told your uncle, your adopted uncle, and the only person, what you said beforehand is your only person you hadn't told was your adopted mother.
That's correct.
Why was that?
Why didn't I tell her?
Yeah.
Because I didn't think that she would handle it. Having had the experience with the girlfriends that I had over the years, and the fact that she wasn't coming to my wedding, I honestly didn't think that, telling her that I'd now tracked down and found my biological mother would go down too well. So I never did tell her.
Yeah. And I think, as I say before, so what you were telling me before is that you weren't sure she was going to turn up. The real reason was just all in the same way you'd had the terrible experiences with the girlfriends. You were more worried about your mother's reaction, whether she would harm herself or how she would react, whether there might be a scene or so on and so forth. Is that the reality?
What? I'm lost. Sorry, Andrew, I'm lost.
So you mentioned that you didn't tell your adopted mother.
Yes, I didn't tell my adopted mother
because you were worried about her reaction.
Yes, yes, absolutely. But that's yes. I mean, that's not the reason that she never came to the wedding, but that's the reason that I never told her, because I didn't think that she would handle it and that it would go down very well, and I didn't see what benefit there would be in telling her. I mean, there may have come a time when I did tell her, but up to the point where she passed away, she never knew.
And how long after the wedding did she pass away?
So she passed away 10 years ago this month, my adopted mum. So 12 years. 12 years after I got married. So I've been in contact with my biological mother for 12 years and not told my adopted mum. You've frozen on me.
No, I'm just.
You're just very still.
I was just listening to the reaction, because going through your head, what you said beforehand. I said that this is the cloak, the joke cloak, if you like. Going through your head beforehand, you said the reason that you didn't mention it before the wedding in case you didn't really turn up, your biological mother. You then had a 12-year period where you never told your adopted mother because you were scared of the reaction. Is that right?
Yeah, but partly that, and also because we didn't have a great relationship, and I wanted to keep what there was of it. I just honestly thought there's no point in telling her. Obviously the thought went through my head. Wouldn't it be lovely if the two of them could get together, my adopted mum, my biological mum, and that my adopted mum could fill in all the stories of me growing up. And I did ask my biological mother if she wanted me to tell her, and because if she'd have said yes, I probably would have done it. But she just said it's up to you. So I made the decision not to. I'm quite fortunate because my adopted dad had a cine camera and took lots of video of me as a child. So my birth mother, as biological mother, has seen all of that. Yeah, but no, I never told. I didn't think it would be the right thing to do, so I didn't tell her.
With hindsight, and hindsight's a great thing, there's a chapter that your biological mother probably had lots of questions about, isn't there? The missing years.
Quite possibly. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a number of years there that we've spoken about, and I've filled her in as best I can. But obviously, it's a completely different perspective to one that she would have got than if my adopted mother had told her. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, I called it. I don't know if I called it right or wrong, but that was my call, and I didn't tell her.
And looking back at that, do you wish you did tell her?
I think if my biological mother had ever said to me, I wish I'd sat down and had a conversation with her, then yeah, I would feel some kind of regret that maybe I should have done it. But I still think that I did the right thing in not telling her. I honestly don't think that she could have handled it, and I don't think I could have handled the aftermath. And I do think that some things are best left unsaid. This has all gone very deep, hasn't it? I can't see this being a 3.5 hour one. I ain't even gotten to me dad yet.
It doesn't matter about the time. It's whatever you want to share, because a lot of people take comfort from the situation, and a lot of people will be in a similar situation. And
they are. But so many people's stories are different. Had my adopted mother been different and not had several suicide attempts and not been the way she was with me, then maybe I would have opened up, and maybe I would have asked her about my adoption, and maybe it's just lots of maybes, Andrew. And maybe they could have got together, maybe they could have become best of friends. I just don't know. I just called it as I thought was right to call it. And you say about in hindsight, would it be any different? Then no, it would still be the same. Like I say, had my biological mother said to me, it's a shame I didn't get to meet, or I didn't get to chat, didn't get to find out stories from your adopted mother, then yeah, I would think that I should have done it differently. But I don't think I should have done it any differently. And lots of people's stories are different, and there'll be someone else telling a story where they did tell their adoptive mother, and you watch like Davina's life stories. There are cases where the adoptive parents get involved and help with the search, and they're very happy for their child to meet their biological parents. I just don't think mine would have gone that well with my adopted mum.
And that's based on your experiences, you say, with girlfriends and so on and so forth. You're quite protective of your adoptive mum as well, because as you mentioned beforehand, you witnessed her, effectively, even with the vinegar story you were telling us earlier, some quite small things, and there would be these most extraordinary reactions.
Yeah, I mean, she, at the end of the day, she was my mother. She couldn't have kids with my father. And so they went down the route. They wanted a child. They wanted to give love to a child. They wanted to bring a child up more than anything. And they chose, me. Or they were given me, whatever. And so, yeah, as much as it was a very difficult relationship with my mother, and the relationship that we had, and the suicide attempts and the alcoholism and all of that, at the end of the day, she did adopt me. She did love me. It was just a very difficult relationship. So yes, I was somewhat protective of her. I certainly didn't want her to kill herself again, and I didn't want her upset by all of it.
And your mother was quite young. Your adopted mother was quite young when she died.
She was 72. She was 72, as was my adoptive father. He died from he had kidney cancer, and they removed his kidney, but it had spread. It was all very, very quick. He had blood in his urine in November. He was in having his kidney out in the new year, and we were told that he would have 2 years to live maximum. And I think he lasted 2 months. And then when my mother died, my adoptive mum, it gets very confusing when you talk of mothers and mums and things. When my adoptive mother died, she died from complications. That she had cancer when she was much younger, around 40, mid-40s. She had cancer in her stomach, and they treated it with not ultrasound, but when they used the lasers,
yeah,
the lasers, but it was all new technology at the time, and they gave her too high a dose of treatment, which killed the cancer, but it had an effect on cells around the area, and over the years they died off, and she started collapsing from the inside out. It's quite terrible, actually. She had multiple operations to try and put that right, but she died. Eventually, she died from complications of that. Basically, her stomach opened up and from inside, and she got septicemia, and I was with them both when they died, both my adopted parents. My father's last words to me were a bit of cold chicken, because he was in Harlow Hospital. I'd visit him every day, and on leaving his room, I'd say, do you want to bring anything up with me tomorrow? Do you want anything? And the last thing he said to me, no, you're all right. I said, okay, see you tomorrow. And as I walked out of his room and the door shut, he went, a bit of cold chicken. And but unfortunately, he became unconscious. We were phoned early the next morning by the hospital. And we went in, and that was quite sad. Me and my brother, we sat with him. And, a lot of people don't get a chance to do this when their loved ones pass, and but we sat with him and we held his hand, me and my brother either side of him at the bed. He was unconscious on drips, and we Andrew. Yeah. We both thanked him. We both thanked him actually for having adopted us and for being the best dad that one could want. And after we both said our thank yous and told him that we loved him, he stopped breathing. And he went. It was 11:23 in the morning when he passed away. And when my brother and I left the hospital, my brother went home and I went to my dad's flat. And I remember I went into the flat and I sat in his armchair and just you know, having the smell of him around me. Sure you what it's like. Just still wanted a bit of him around me. And I looked up at the carriage clock on the top of his television and it had stopped at 11:23. And it never went again, which was incredible. Incredible. So yes, I was with him when he passed, and I was with me adopted mum when she passed as well. She was in an isolated room at Harlow Hospital, and again I said it's the same things to her. And the last words that I said to her were, "I love you." And they were the last words that she said to me. But my brother wasn't there for that, because not only did she not have a very good relationship with me, she didn't have a very good relationship with my brother either. So he wasn't there, unfortunately, when that happened. Yeah, can we get on to some happy stuff?
I think it's as we say about a lot of these things, it's all unfinished business sometimes. And sometimes what happens, Andy, and that's why I talk about anybody trying to get support, and why I mentioned to you earlier to make sure that you've got somebody to talk to afterwards, because these are emotionally draining. And as I say, sometimes this acts as a catalyst for people watching, because they don't talk to people about it. And I'm not here to say, tell me everything. I'm here to say, you approached me and you wanted to tell your story. And what I would encourage you to do is, and firstly, it's fantastic, and it's such an emotional journey which you're sharing. But it's obviously something that you wanted to do because you wanted your story to be told, and you haven't told it.
Well, yeah, I could tell my story in 5 minutes. But we're going into so much detail, which I wasn't expecting. You know, here's the quick one. It took me a week to find me mum. Give it a few years. I tracked down my dad. We all get on happy. There you go. And the story. No, the reason I wanted to tell you the story was, you know, because there are people out there that are adopted. One of the comments I see after you mentioned about some comments that I had earlier on from the post that I said that I would be doing this with you this week. One of the comments on there was from a chap that I know, and he said that he was adopted, but he doesn't want to know. You know, he's quite happy not knowing, and that's fine. That's fine if you really don't want to know. But I can't help but think that there's always this nagging. You know, for me, you know, when I found out, and I know it was several years before I did anything, and it was the fact that I was getting, you know, my dad had died, and I was getting married that year, and and there was a program on the TV, and they were the things that pushed me into doing it. But right up until that point, from the day that I was told that I was adopted, there's always this question, where am I from? Why was I adopted? Always. And so if there is anybody out there, you know, that's thinking of doing it, Obviously I'm going to say do it, because I've had great experiences from it. Emotional, but I've had great experiences from it, and I've been very lucky. And I wish the same for everybody else that tries. I hope that they all have the same luck that I do. And and with James, his continued story when he goes to Ireland and tracks down. Okay, his mother's passed. There's a chance that his father may still be alive, and I hope that he is. But if he isn't, he may have uncles and cousins, certainly second cousins over there. But those that say that they don't want to know, they might think that now, but in 5 years' time, things change, people change, situations change, and for anyone that does think of doing it, I would. You gotta get it out your system. If it's eating away at you, I think you need to know one way or the other. And I think the best thing to do is to find out. My adopted brother, after I was successful with both tracking down my mother and my father, and I've not come on to my dad yet, and we must talk about him because he's a character. My adopted brother went down the same route and found his mother almost as quick as I found mine, and she was delighted that he'd got in touch and everything was great, and he's got extended family. He's got a great relationship with his mum, and then he tried with his dad, but his dad didn't want to know. His dad said, "No, I've got a family. I'm not interested. Leave me alone." And that was really difficult for me brother, because obviously I'd been successful with both of mine, and he'd been accepted by his mum, and just assumed that the same would happen with his dad. Why not? He was successful with my mum, my dad, his mum. Why not his dad? But he didn't want to know. His dad didn't want to know. His dad's family didn't know about him. And didn't want to know until last year, when he had a change of heart because he was dying of cancer, and he got in touch with Dave, and they met, and I think they only probably met 2 or 3 times before he did pass away, but there was still that closure there for me brother, and I'm happy, and he's happy. Even though he met his father a couple of times, and he only got to know him for a short period of time, he's happy that there was that closure there. And I hope that James gets that with his journey, and I hope that anybody does when they search. And but it is an emotional roller coaster, and it's fantastic. I had a small family. It's weird, when I was growing up, you'd go to family functions, and the families were all close knit. But my brother and I, we never seemed to be included with anything. We didn't seem to fit in, and we didn't know why. And I don't know if that's because obviously the whole family knew that we were adopted, and we were treated differently because of it. I don't know, but when obviously I discovered that I was adopted, you start thinking, okay, maybe that's why the family were the way they were toward us, and different to cousins. I don't know where I'm going with that. I don't know. That was going somewhere, and now I don't know where it was going. I just see myself and my brother hiding under a table at a family function.
But that's why a lot of those sort of things do flash back. And I presume your brother found out when you were 8, when your mother said, by the way, he's not even your father. That's when your brother...
Well, it'd have been 9, yeah.
Would have found out at the same time, yeah?
Yeah. And, I told my friends... I remember telling my friends at school when I found out. And, they didn't treat me any differently. Just carried on school life as normal. But yeah, it does eat away. There's that need to know. There's that need to know. And if I'd have gone down this route and my mum had said no, I don't want to know, I would have had to accept that and move on. But at least I would have known, and the same with my dad as well. So I do hope that those watching this, if they are still watching it, that are thinking of tracing their families, if they are adopted, I do hope that they go down the path. But like I said, my family was very, very small, very small. I had one adopted brother, and that was it. And now it's massive. I've got. Let me show you this. It's a little bit weird. It's almost like a sliding doors. You've seen the film Sliding Doors?
And absolutely, it's the George Michael song about turn a different corner, who we never would have met. So all those sort of things, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very odd. My mum and my dad, my biological parents, Jackie and Brian, they're like yin and yang. They're completely different ends of the spectrum. You would never have thought that their personalities. Now you could never see them together as a couple. You just couldn't. And they are completely both ends of the spectrum. However, so they had me. I was adopted, and then Brian remarried and had a son, and then divorced, and then remarried and had 3 daughters. And so on my father's side, I've got a younger brother and 3 daughters. My mother, after having me, married, had a son and 3 daughters. It's mirrored. Both sides, it's mirrored. I've got a brother and then 3 daughters, and they're of similar ages.
Oh, there's your family tree, okay.
So, well, it's just Brian and Jackie at the top there, and then me in the middle, stuck in the middle. But if you look down at Jackie's line, you can see Michael, Haley, Tina and Lynette and their respective ages underneath. And then on Brian's side, you've got Rodney, Sally Ann, Michelle and Terry and their respective ages underneath. And there's not a lot of difference in ages between them. It's mirrored.
You did that diagram, did you, that family tree?
Yeah, I did that this morning.
Oh, good. No, it's good. It is very interesting. How old are you now, Andy?
I'm 50.
No, yeah, 1969 you would be, yes.
Yes, I'm 51 this year. 51 September.
Right. So the age group, as I say, there's a couple of things we need to touch on. Your father. We need to touch on how you were introduced to his family, how you got over from the 50th birthday of your mother when you were living this sort of, I don't know who I am really, and I'm the friend up in Harlow, and how you had to play that role. Which one do you want to do first? Do you want to do your father?
We'll finish off my mother's story very quickly. Okay, so my mother's 50th was in March of 2003, and then it was like I said, it's quite funny. And then we went for a meal. Me, Jackie, should have been Bill, but he couldn't come, and Tina invited herself along because she thought something was fishy because of the 50th birthday.
Tina's a wise. She's probably watching this now. She's a wise one, isn't she?
That's the one. Yeah, Tina's like. I was going to say Poirot, and then I thought of Miss Marple, but she's definitely neither of those. But she was inquisitive and she likes to dig. So she invited herself along, which was quite funny. But she didn't get anywhere. And then it was following that. It was the Easter after that, 2004. Easter 2004. Jackie finally told them all who I was. And I went over there over the Easter period, laden with sacks of Easter eggs. And I went over to Jackie's house. And the girls were there. Michael, unfortunately, wasn't there. So I didn't get to meet Michael that day. But the girls were there. And this was exciting because I'd already met them once before. Frustrated that I couldn't tell them who I was. But now I'm outside the house and I'm about to go in, and they're in there waiting for me, and we're all going to come clean. Yeah, so I was very excited, happy, excited. It's like after a gag has gone well, and you do the reveal of the gag, and it was kind of like that. But I went into the house, and as I went in, I took the first left and went in the toilet to try and compose myself. And then walked into the kitchen, and Shaz had already gone into the kitchen and met them all. And they were lovely. All three of them. And they are, they're all lovely. Tina, Hayley, Mike, Lynette. Very lucky to have them as my siblings on my mother's side. Yeah, they were very welcoming. We got on brilliantly. We go to nightclubs together afterwards, and they'd come and stay over here. I'd go and stay over there. It was, it was great. It was great. And that brings us up to Easter 2004.
2004. You popped to the loo. You're very nervous beforehand. I get that. You say your mother had already told them. When did she tell them?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Obviously, it was around that time, but I don't know the date that she came clean. Okay. And told them.
But she basically, so she made a phone call saying, look, I've told your sister and your brother, and come round, and everybody knows now. That's how it was set up.
I believe so. I believe she didn't. I believe she, yeah, they knew before I got there that I was their brother. Yeah, it wasn't, I walked in and then it was, oh, by the way, this is Andy. He's not our friend from Harlow. He's your brother. She'd already told them. When she told them and in which order she told them, I don't know.
But you can get that clarified.
I can. She remembers a lot of detail. And it's funny because I was talking to Tina, my sister, this morning about it. And Tina even remembers what she was wearing. She said, yeah, I was wearing a pink top, jeans, blah, blah, blah. So, wow.
But this, I mean, from their point of view as well, and I always like to look at things from everybody's point of view. There will be everybody in that room who suddenly worked out, hang on, I've got a brother. And I'm not surprised you know exactly what she's wearing. You probably, and it's like the sense of smell. The sense of smell is something that lasts with you forever. They probably remember the smell, the look of the furniture, the look at somebody having a cup of tea, somebody nervously sitting there wondering what's going to happen. All of that. What were you wearing? Do you remember?
No. I don't remember what I was wearing.
But interestingly, Andy, you remembered at the wedding, or the 50th birthday party, because you remembered meeting your sisters for the first time.
I remembered that because I did some magic there, and I remember my Moschino jeans, and I loved my Moschino jeans, Andrew, which no longer fit me anymore. Shaz has actually made me a waistcoat out of them because the jeans don't fit anymore.
Right. So you walked in. Who spoke first, and what did you say?
I don't remember that. This is 2004. This is 16 years ago.
But nobody said, this is my brother, or this is your brother.
No, well, they already knew. I'd gone into the toilet. I don't know what had been said when Shaz went into the kitchen between them all, but I would have come out of the toilet and walked into the kitchen and just basically said hello. And then it would have been that, hello, and then conversation would have taken place. But it's like it was when my mum came. I said it's become a blur. I remember bits of it, but not all of it. And again, no pictures, unfortunately, for when I met them. It would have been lovely to have taken a selfie at the time of meeting them, but didn't think to take a camera. None of us took a photo that I can remember. But it was lovely, and we've had a great relationship with them. They've all got children now, so I'm uncle to all of their kids, which is lovely. I think there's Michael's got a daughter, Chardonnay. Hayley's got Connor. Tina's got Kyra, Daisy May and Mia, and Lynette's got Kenny and Alfie.
And do they all know your story?
They do. They do. Although at the time, I think Kenny was the only one that was around. He was 2. I think Kenny was 2 back then. And so he was the only nephew that I had. But like I said, I had a very small family with one adopted brother. To all of us, and so now having another brother and 3 sisters, and obviously that's grown over the years with now their kids, and the same happening on my father's side as well. I've now become part of a massive family. My father's family is so large I can't keep track of it.
You mentioned your father's side, which is running in parallel with the story. Fill us in on that side. And how did you track him down at the same time? What was the journey with him?
No, I didn't. I didn't track him down at the same time. So I was very lucky the way I found my mother. Very lucky with the way I found it. It happened so quick, and everything was fine. But it's a lot to take in. Emotionally, it's a lot to take in. So there was no way I could start searching for my father at the same time and start going through the same emotions there as I was with my mum. I also had to be a little bit careful. I didn't want to upset my mum in discussing it too much, but I did find out my father's name, Brian Clark. But she had no idea where he lived. Knew nothing. They just completely lost contact. They never saw each other again. So I had the name Brian Clark. So I'm very happy. Found my mum, got my sisters. We meet up regular. Everything's tickety-boo. And then, where are we? Boom, 2007. So 9 years after finding, hang on a minute, let's go back. No, before that. 2007 was actually when I found my father, but I started searching for him in 2002. So everything's hunky-dory with me mum. I've gone up into, yeah, that's fine. Everything's hunky-dory with my mum. So I decided, that's right, March 2001. So I've gone beyond that with my mum and my sisters, and I've met them. But in 2001, I was getting a bit frustrated that my mum wasn't telling my siblings about me, and I wanted things to progress, and they weren't progressing. So it's around about 2001 that I thought maybe it's about time then that I started. I seem to have gone as far as I can go with my mother. I can't progress it any further until she tells the kids. So it's that time I decided that I would start searching for my father. So I knew his name was Brian Clark. And I did a search using the electoral register, directory inquiries and Google, and searched for B. Clarks in Essex.
Clarks, as in, it's not the normal spelling, but it's not a with an S on the end.
Well, there's Clarks with an S, or there's Clark, and there's Clark with an E. There's Clark without an E. So he's Brian Clark without an E.
Okay, I imagine there's quite a few of those.
So, well, there was 37.
Okay.
37 in Essex. So, okay, so I've got 37 in Essex. I've got the list here somewhere. So I'm looking at their locations. I'm trying to find some that are pretty close to where we're at. Because I knew where, Jackie had told me where he'd lived as a child, where he grew up, the places where they used to hang around. And Jackie had not moved far from where she originally lived. She was in the same village, or just outside the village of where she'd grown up. And I was hoping that Brian maybe would have done the same thing, stayed close to family. So my list of 37 then got whittled down to 4 that were in that locale. And there was one that lived less than half a mile away from where Brian's family home was. And I was, well, that's it. I found him like that. I found him. There he is. Because I didn't have an address. It wasn't on my birth certificate. So I contacted this guy or wrote a letter, confident that I was going to have the same success with my father as I had with my mother. And I wrote a letter. I sent it to this address and I had no reply.
You have the letter there?
No, I haven't got a copy of the letter that I sent to him. And then I sent another letter and no reply. So then I thought, well, maybe the letters aren't getting there for some reason. So I hand delivered a letter, put it through the door. Still no reply. Now, I'm not expecting a reply within a couple of days. I'm talking a couple of weeks, not getting any replies. So I'm so convinced that it's him. But why isn't he getting in touch? And I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated. Why is he not getting in touch? That I contact directory inquiries for the phone number for that address. And I get it. And I phone the number and a woman answers. And I asked to speak to Brian Clark, and she was quite stern with me, this woman on the phone. She said, "Who is this?" Because obviously they've been getting my letters and reading them. And I didn't go into too much detail in the letter. But I said, I'm trying to search a Brian Clark that may have known Jacqueline Ann Summers back in 1969. Didn't say that they had a kid and it was me. But she was quite stern with me on the phone, and I explained that I'd been writing these letters. And she told me, she said, "No, it's not my father that you're after. He doesn't know a Jacqueline Ann Summers. He tried committing suicide a couple of years ago. He doesn't need this. Can you please stop pestering him?" And hung up. And that knocked me. Yeah, I thought this was the guy. It's not the guy. I'm messing around with someone's life here, and I could be messing around with. I've got another 3 names to do. Am I going to draw blanks with them? Am I going to cause them the same grief? So I left it. I left it a while. So that's 2002, and it completely put me off the idea of searching for him. Until I go to my sister's wedding. Do you remember I said that my sister was getting married on the 8th of August?
Yes.
So at the time, I was doing a 10-week tour of the holiday camps of Devon and Cornwall with this circus troupe. It was the Circus Olympics. It was the year of the Olympics, and I was the ringmaster.
Very good. It was in Beijing, wasn't it? 2008.
It may have been. It certainly
was.
wasn't.
I was over there. So it was 2000, the 8th of the 8th. That's why they did it. 888.
Well, there you go. There you go. See, I'm not lying, am I? I'm not lying. So I was doing this 10-week tour, and I had the day off. I managed to get the day off. They had a cover for me to stand in, and I went to my sister's wedding on the 8th of August, 2004. And I was sat on this table, and there was a chap sitting to my right. Didn't know him. You know what it's like at weddings. You sat with people that you don't necessarily know. Conversation sparks up. I start chatting with this guy, and I tell him who I am. And I say that, Jackie had me when she was 16. I was put up for adoption. I've recently found her, but we're trying to find my father. But we can't track him down. And he said, "What's his name?" And I said, "Brian Clark." He went, "What, Nobby?" And he knew him. This random bloke that I'm sitting next to at my sister's wedding knew Brian Clark. And he was one of my 4. I said I'd narrowed it down to 4 out of 37. He was, I think he was 4th on my list of 4.
And I think many people called Clark are called Nobby, and that sort of adds to the confusion as well.
Yeah, it came from. I thought it was because my old man put it around a bit, but apparently not. Apparently, in the war,
many Clarks are called Nobby. 2004 was actually Athens. It was Athens Olympics. So,
was it? Did you just search for that while I'm spilling my heart?
No, I wouldn't do that.
So I'd started with my list of 4. I started with the top. It had all gone wrong with that Brian Clark. My Brian Clark was at the bottom of that list of 4. But like I said, I'd stopped at it. So after the wedding, I gave my telephone number to this guy. And he said, "I'll pop round and see him. I'll tell him that I've met you." I'll see if he wants to get in touch. So after the wedding, I go back down to Exeter, which was our base where we were staying for the tour. And I have to continue my tour. And meanwhile, Keith goes round to my dad's house, says, your son's been in, I've met your son. Do you want to get in touch? And my dad is like, yeah, I do. Here's my number. Give him my number. Tell him to ring me. So Keith calls me, tells me the good news, says he's been round, Brian's happy to see me, gives me the number, which I put in my phone. And I think, right, when I'm ready, I'll ring him. Yeah, and then during the tour, we're on a beach in Cornwall, and I put my phone on a rock as I go and have a dip in the sea, and a wave comes in, takes my phone. So I've lost my dad's number, and I've lost Keith's number. So I had this link, and it a wave, and it's gone. So I do nothing about it while I'm on the rest of the tour. And then when I get back off the tour, because Keith had confirmed that it was on my list and told me the address, I looked on my list and he go, oh right, that's the one. That's the one. So I've got his address details now. And yeah, I didn't write, first of all. I didn't write. Shaz and I actually drove to his house and sat outside. And we did that a couple of times. Just sat outside. And then I finally plucked up the courage to write to him in 2007. So again, it's a long period. And I can't help but wonder what was going through Brian's mind, expecting me to get in touch with him the next week, when I leave it 2.5 years before I do get in touch. But I do. I write to him on the 6th of February, 2007. And he didn't write. And I got a copy of his letter that I wrote to him because he kept it.
Okay.
Would you like to hear it?
Of course.
We're going to beat Mike Reed's time.
I think that's what you're trying to do, is that you've always been one to beat the records. And in Pop Quiz, that'll be the one. Who was the longest? It was got to be Andy.
So here's my letter to Brian. So this is the 6th of February, 2007. Dear Brian, here I go with the ninth version of what is turning out to be the second hardest letter I've ever written. And if you're not sitting down with a strong coffee, I suggest you do.
Now look at you changing it slightly. At least you got a pattern here. There's a bit of plagiarism going on there.
Well, I can, it was a strong drink last time. This time I mentioned coffee. I didn't copy all of the letter.
Okay.
Assuming that you are the correct Brian Clark, then it seems that you are my father. I was born on the 30th of September 1969 to Jacqueline Summers of West Burgolt and given the name David John Summers. I was adopted 8 weeks later by Valerie and Ronald Martin, who changed my name. I know that Keith Burrows came to see you in August 2004 and that you asked him to pass on your number to me. Keith did this, but I never plucked up the courage to call you, and I lost my phone to the sea in Cornwall. I'd like to meet with you and would hope that you would like to meet with me, and so we'll leave the decision to you. You now have my address, and my phone number is, and my email address is. Hopefully you'll not leave it as long as I have to get in touch with you. Told you you would need a drink. Andy. So I sent that on the 6th, and Brian never wrote back. I don't have any letters from Brian. Brian never wrote back. He phoned me on the 10th. So I sent it on the 6th. They were actually away on a cruise when I wrote the letter. And they got back from the cruise on the Saturday the 10th. And he phoned me that night. We had a great chat on the phone. And I went over and I met him for the first time on the 17th of February, 2017. No, sorry, 2007. 2007. It was the 17th. 17th of February 2007. And yeah, happy to say that everything there is great. Found out that I've got another brother, Michael. No, Michael's on my mother's side, Rodney, and then my three sisters, Sally Ann, Michelle, and Terry. It's weird, very, very weird. You know, you're sitting there and you look in, and his wife Elaine, she was great. She was great with me, very welcoming, always has been. And that Brian had always told, Elaine always knew about me, and when his daughters had been growing up, he'd always told them, you've got another brother out there somewhere. So they were always waiting for me to get in touch.
So that was a bit easier. I mean, you mentioned when your mother, your biological mother, wrote the letter and arrived in the post, and you from Colchester, and you ran upstairs and sat there with Shaz. What happened when you got the phone call from an unknown number? Can you talk us through that phone call?
It was. I didn't answer the call. Did I answer the call? Yes, I was. I was driving. I was coming off the M11 slip road, and this call came through 01206 number, which is a Colchester code. And I guess that it was him. But I didn't answer it because I was driving. But he left a message, and he's got a very strong Suffolk accent, very, very strong Suffolk accent, and left me a message saying it's Brian here, and confirmed that, you know, yeah, it was the right Brian, and that he was me dad, and just asked me to give him a call. And that's what I did. When I got back home, I called him, and it was all very exciting. And when I met him the following week, it seemed once I found Brian, because he was so open with all of his family, and everybody knew, and I wasn't a secret from his kids, it was so much easier to get to know them, and because I'd already done it before, and it had taken its time with Jackie, very, very slow with her family, getting to know them all over many years. You know, it was 6 years before I met my sisters and my brother on Jackie's side, but it was like 2 weeks with Brian. The very first meeting I had with him was at his house, and it was just me and Shaz and Brian and Elaine, and their kids, they live nearby, but they were told to stay away. And but they kept texting, how's everything going? Kept texting Brian, kept texting Elaine, how's everything going? And yeah, it was brilliant. It was fantastic. And I've got a fantastic relationship with Brian. You may have seen some of the videos that I put up on Facebook when I tag him in. He's such a character. I don't know where I got me from. What is interesting, one of my uncles on my mother's side was Graham Clark, who was a member of the Magic Circle.
Oh, right, okay.
Her great uncle, I think it is Graham Clark, but it's not blood, so it's not come down the blood. So I don't know where this performer in me has come from. It's not come from my mother's side, and my dad's a bricklayer. Well, he's a retired bricklayer now, and I didn't think it had come down his side, but since he's been spending time with me and seeing what I do, it's almost like it's unleashed something in him to do the same, something that he'd always wanted to do, but never had the courage to do it. And he says it's almost like I'm living a kind of a life that he would have liked with regards to performing, and because he's a bit of a joker, but he's always a little bit shy, but he has really come out of his shell since knowing me. In the last 10 years, or 12 years that I've known him, 13 years that I've known him. We've been on some fantastic holidays together. We've done some crazy things together. And yeah, he likes nothing more than a bit of attention. Yeah, yeah. So it's all good. And just
picture of the two of you together, Andy? Do you have a picture of the two of you together?
I do. Thank you for asking.
That's my job.
Thank you for asking. I told you it would be a lot quicker. So this is the earliest photo I can find of me and he.
Fantastic.
And
you can tell you really sort of bonded. So where was that photo? When was that taken?
Well, that was actually taken the following year. I can't track down any earlier photos. So that was taken June 2008. I must have an earlier photo.
Dig it out for next time. We'll do the second half, which will be great.
But no, we're wrapping up today. We're wrapping up. We're wrapping up. So that's the earliest I can find.
Andy, at the very beginning, and you caught up with your father, you caught up with your biological mother. They both gave the same story, that effectively they were forced to get rid of you, to let you go. And you even said that your biological father was threatened with being beaten up by your grandparents.
By my sister's siblings, yeah. I mean, look at that.
Yeah. There you go.
Look at that.
Fantastic picture.
Hey? That was July 16. Yes.
Completing that side of it, did you ever have the opportunity of speaking to your biological grandparents?
No. On my father's side, they'd already passed before I'd got in touch. On my mother's side, her father had already passed away, but her mother was still alive. But she never told her mother about me. I suppose it's a bit like me not telling my adopted mother about her. Because from what I understand, it was my grandfather, her father, was the force in the family. You know, him and the three brothers. They were the men of the house, and my grandfather was the man of the house. And I think it was pretty much what he wanted went. And I understand that my grandmother wasn't as keen to get rid of me, and it was all down to her father. And speaking to my mother about it, and whether or not I would get to meet her mother, she kind of felt the same. She didn't feel the same. She kind of felt that she would feel bad about having given me up for adoption, and all those emotions would come back unnecessarily. And she was quite aged and poorly, so she decided not to tell her. And again, I can't force her to tell her. And then she passed away, so I never got to meet her. So no, but I've got uncles and aunts on, my brothers, my dad, he's one of 8. My mum, she's one of 4. So extended family is crazy. I'm going to show you a picture. This is the first picture for my 35th birthday. Tina organised for a photo shoot. Because I said what I would really like would be a photo of me with the family. So where's that? Oh, there it is. There it is. So this is me with my brother and my sisters on my mother's side. That's Michael sat in front of me there. You can see the resemblance there with Michael, and also Lynette is to my right. There's a striking resemblance there. And you've got Tina and Hayley, the other 2. And then that was the first picture I had taken with them. And I'll find the picture on my dad's side of me with my brothers and sisters. Again, you can see a resemblance there as well with us all. It's crazy. It's crazy, but lovely. And this is a picture of my first Christmas that I'd been in touch with Brian. So Christmas 2000 and... Oh no, this is Christmas 2008. But this is the first time that I saw Brian on Christmas Day. He came over He came over, travelled over from Colchester on Christmas Day morning, and surprised me like that. He's quite a guy. He's quite a guy. And to wrap it all up, if you ever wanted to make this into a screenplay, the perfect ending for it would be my 40th birthday.
Okay.
And on my 40th birthday, I had everybody in the restaurant. Do I have a photo? No. I have group photos throughout the night, but on my 40th birthday, I had my biological mother there, my biological father there, all my sisters. Weirdly enough, neither of my brothers were there. But all my friends and family. It was very emotional. And if there's one regret, you spoke earlier about any regrets. If there's one regret, it's that I haven't got a photo of me with my mum and my dad. I would love a photo of me and my mum and my dad, my biological parent, in the same photo. I've got photos of me and Brian. I've got photos of me with Jackie. And I would love a photo of me with Jackie and Brian. Brian's up for it. I say regret. It's nothing to do with me, really. I would have liked a photo on the night of my 40th, when everybody was there. But Brian's up for a photo with me and Jackie. But Jackie, after all of these years, she still can't bring herself to talk to Brian. They've been in the same room a couple of occasions. I even did a theatre show in Colchester where they were both there, sat behind each other. And my dad, bless him, as much as he would have loved to have turned around and said, "Hello, Jackie," he knows that she doesn't want that, and so he didn't do it. He didn't do it. And I hope that my mum will change her mind one day and agree to the photo. If you're watching, Mum, come on, we're running out of time. It would be lovely to have that. But yeah, to top all of this off, it all came to a head when everybody came to my 40th birthday, which was lovely. My word, haven't we spoken for a length of time?
It's so important, Andy, and maybe to finish him, because that would be the finish, as you say, having a picture with your biological mother and your biological father. Your biological father seems to be up for it.
Yeah.
Feeling your mother will be watching, and it's obviously an emotional journey for her as well. And you've touched on lots of those and the reasons for it. And I think the more you talk about it, the more you can put things in perspective and understand the pressures that she's had on her with the family. She was 16, he was 20. They've moved on now 50 years. If you had one chance to explain to her how much it would mean to you and to your father, you should finish on that moment.
Do you know what? I wouldn't. I hope she does watch this, and I honestly wouldn't want to put her under. I don't want to put her in that situation, Andrew. I would love to have a photo, for completeness. I mean, who wouldn't want a photo with their parents? I would love it. But I'm not going to use some kind of emotional blackmail into doing it. It's got to be something that she's comfortable doing. I do hope that one day she is able to do it, but it's not something that I shall insist. It's not something that I shall demand. It's just something that I would love to have. So I'll leave it there. No more no more of a guilt trip than that, other than saying it's something that I genuinely would love to have, but if it can't be, then it can't be.
Well, let's hope. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing a really powerful journey. Maybe actually we can finish it. That's one for Jackie, and I understand the difficulties. And sometimes the reason people don't talk about these things is they're worried about rejection. They're worried about what other people's reaction are going to be. And one of the biggest regrets that people have is when they don't have an opportunity to say how they feel. You managed to say to both your adopted parents that you love them before they passed. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity. So I think that's a good thing. For you to be so brave, and it is brave, and to talk about your own personal journey, and there's tears and laughter along the way, it's going to help a lot of people. Because again, the same people are going to work on that sort of basis about the fear of rejection. It's great you've had the chance to say to your biological mother, I would really like this. Because that's, and I get the reason for that. It is easy to try and track down your parents, and you said, and just to remind people, and maybe finish on this then, people who are thinking of going on the same journey, what advice would you give them and why?
Okay, I would totally go for it, because I think that if you don't go for it, I do think that it's going to niggle you. It's going to niggle you until the day you die. If you know that you're adopted and you choose not to do anything about it, that might be right for now. It might be right for you for now, but it will niggle away at you. It will. And if you leave it too late, there is a chance that your parents may not be around anymore. And if your story is anything like mine, and you were adopted before 1971, your parents cannot look for you. They cannot get in contact with you, no matter how much they try. And they may have tried, but they will not find you. They cannot find you. So don't think that if you were adopted around that time, don't think for 1 second that if you have not been contacted by them, that they do not want you to contact them. Because there's every chance, like when I contacted my mother, she knew, well, she hoped, she always lived in hope that one day I would make contact with her, and I did, and things are fantastic, and I would recommend anybody do it. And if you do go down that path of tracing your biological family, and you do make contact, and they do say, no, I can't do this, then at least you know it will not niggle at you for the rest of your life. And there's every chance, like with my adopted brother, when he tracked down his father, and he said no from the off. He said no, and my brother accepted that. And a few years later, his biological father's dying of cancer, and he has a change of heart, and he wants to meet his son. And it's so important. And if you do go on this journey, I do wish you every success. Share it with somebody. It's very important to share it with somebody, because it is so emotionally draining. It's very exciting, but so incredibly emotionally draining, and you will need people to talk to. I've spoken about this many, many times, but every now and again, like today, I'll be reading something, and bush, there come the tears. And I think I have cried more today than I ever did when I was a baby, as as my adopted mum says. But please, I would say please give it a go. And I wish you every success.
Andy, thank you so much. Next time, I'll record it, yeah? No, you don't.
You can.
We did. You did. I can tell you did beat.
And action.
Thank you. You did beat Mike Reed's record, so congratulations.
No, we've not.
Absolutely. It's been over 3.5 hours.
Well, no one's going to watch this, are they?
You'll be absolutely surprised. In the same way as James touched a nerve with you, I know there are several people out there who'll be in the same position. And thank you for your courage and bravery for sharing.
Well, thanks, Andrew. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell my story, and I hope it does inspire other people to go on this same journey. And I'm sorry that it's taken up so much time. Aren't you glad that I didn't read all of the letters? It's been fun, and during this lockdown period of getting all of this information together, it has caused a few emotions to resurface. You know, there were things that I've forgotten about, and so it's actually been a great exercise for me to have done this during lockdown. I mean, some good's got to come out of lockdown, right? And so thanks again, Andrew. And yeah, what else do you want to talk about? Let's get back to David Jason.
We'll get you back to talk about your magic. I would, if both your parents are watching, I'm sure they are, I would love to see that photo, because that's
just before. Well, I would love to see that too. But just before you go, you've met a number of celebrities yourself, Andrew. You have, and if there was a list, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I've met my favourite singer-songwriter, Howard Jones. Met my favourite comedians, you know, Lee Mack, Joe Pasquale, Tim Vine, Jimmy Carr. Met all my favourite comedians. Met my favourite artist, a guy called Goddard that lives in Las Vegas. You know, David Jason, TV hero. My favourite magician of all time, David Copperfield. I've been so fortunate to meet all of these people, and they say never, you know, you don't want to meet your heroes, but I've nothing but respect and admiration for all of these guys that I've met. But there is one person that's left on my list, Andrew. One person that's left on my list that I would quite like to meet, and that would be Kylie Minogue. So next time you have a little meet with Kylie, yeah, just, you know, give us a bell. Let us know where you're at.
I'll tell you what, and Kylie is lovely, and there's every possibility, Andy, that she could be watching this.
Oh, well, there you go then.
So go on then. You wanted a positive thing this will be you've appealed to your parents. You've done that for the photo. Let's see how heartfelt your appeal is to Kylie. Go for it.
We get all of that out of the way. Now the important stuff. Kylie, you're watching. Everybody's watching. Let's meet. I've met everybody that I would love to meet, apart from you. And I think you're wonderful. So I would just like to meet you, to shake your hand, maybe a little kiss on the cheek, if you want. That's you kissing me. It would be a delight to meet you. Of course, she's not watching this. She's never going to see this. But you never know. You never know. So there you go. There's my appeal to Kylie. But I'd still rather have the photo of my parents, if that's all right.
Absolutely. Andy, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for your honesty. I know it'd be helpful, and if people want to be in touch, we'll give the details at the end. But for now,
yeah, and if anybody wants to reach out to me and ask me any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them and give a helping hand where I can. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. I wish you well, and wish your family well, and enjoy these extra years. You know, it's a blessing.
Thanks, Andrew. Great to talk with you. Stay safe.
Stay safe and stay aware. Stay alert. It's going to be good. Whatever that means, it's going to be good. Andy, thank you so much indeed.
Take care. Goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye. So that was Andy Clockwise and his extraordinary story. If you've been touched by any of the issues in this program, please do get in touch. You can put your comments below. We can get lots of people put in touch with the right sort of people who can help take your own personal journey. And if you'd like to come on the program, write to me at lol@octopustv.com. The details are below. Subscribe to Octopus for many more people with similar experiences and sharing. Because what you find in this extraordinary time is that people who have the courage to share, actually, just as Andy did, they act as an inspiration for others to talk about it. You realize you're not alone, things can be done, and together we can make a difference. Thank you for watching. I'm Andrew Eborn. I'll see you next time.